allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Stephanie, please call the roll.
Yes, we have Mrs. Hanekom,
Here.
Mr. Washow,
Here.
Mrs. Aguilas,
Present.
Mrs. Kennedy, present, Mrs. McCullough-Perno,
Present.
Dr. Adams,
Present.
Mr. Middleman,
Present.
Ms. Villarreal, present, Mr. Kohler-Hufar,
Present.
Ms. Lisa Hutchinson, our legal counsel,
Present.
and myself, Jessie Prince, district clerk.
And at this time, I need a motion to suspend the business meeting.
Motion.
Second. Okay, Jackie, second. All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion and a second for the audit committee meeting to order.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And we're now in the audit committee meeting, and we have, I'm not even sorry for that. Ally?
Mrs. Pataglia.
Oh, is that it? Okay. I don't want to go. Okay, Ed.
That's okay. Okay, good evening. I have two reports to discuss this evening. I have the information technology report and our annual risk assessment update report. Okay, so I'll go over the information technology report first. Basically how we do it is the first couple of pages of your report is it's all a written document, so it's all about your governance, it's your any policies, procedures you have in place related to the information technology. Then we looked at your network and your network security. So we looked at the firewalls, your physical security, your backup controls for the servers. We also looked at the network and the email access. We looked to see if you have remote access. And we also looked at the passwords just to see if they're complex, make sure that they're up to your standards. We also looked at your data security, so we looked at the student information system access. We looked at the IET Direct for your special ed. And we also looked at the data breach to make sure that you have PII, what's called sensitive personal identifiable information. That's a mouthful. And we looked at your accounting information to make sure that the permissions and passwords were good. And then we come up with some recommendations. So as an internal auditor, we have a little bit, we bring everything to the table to let you know, just to give you some recommendations. So not some of these things aren't required, but they are recommended, especially by the OSC. So we're here to help assist and guide the district in getting all these policies and procedures up to standards. We had was for the policies and procedures, the district didn't adopt the required student private policy. And that goes through, there's a student records policy, which you have, but it doesn't have the student privacy. And I can ship the business office and share Brianna a sample if you need a sample so that you can get that implemented.
Yes, actually, if you want to send it after that to our district clerk,
Yes.
we're gonna, our committee will have a meeting and get that implemented.
Okay, perfect. Okay, then we looked at the parents' bill, all right, so there is to make sure that you're in compliance with education law. We didn't have any findings there. Then there's required annual notifications, which is actually goes hand in hand with the student private policy. So I think this will be implemented once you put into place the student privacy. So there was a couple of things that you needed within that notification. We also looked at the server rooms, so you have them throughout the district, and basically some of them were temperature control, there's no fire extinguishers, so we just make sure that everything is safe and secure. We noticed that one of them, I think it was the Cherokee Elementary, that there was the custodians were able to utilize that for storage where the servers were located. So that might be a little bit more time consuming to get into place, but Then we looked at permissions and access control. So we did see that you did have 6 characters, but it's not, the OSC recommends 8. So that's, like I said, we're bringing to your attention, you do have 6, but we're recommending 8 because that's what the Office of the State Controller, just so that if you did get audited, if you wanted to increase it to 8, you would be in compliance. I'm happy to report, we did look at the commission's reports and there was no discrepancies there, so everyone who was supposed to have access to their accounting system had the proper access, according to their job description. And then the disaster recovery plan, we didn't have any issues there as well. So overall, I think it was a good report for our information technology. Mainly, it was just seemed like there was a couple of policies that you needed to be put into place. So I didn't think it was that bad of a report. Are there any questions on the information technology? Otherwise, I'll go into the risk assessment update.
I'm gonna wait, I'll ask all my questions at the end. I'd rather you give your whole,
Okay.
thing first.
Okay, so then we did our risk assessment update. And how we do it is we deem it high, moderate, or low. High means basically this calls real attention to that you really need to get this implemented. Moderate means that we did have some findings that you would just, have recommendations. And low is mean that we didn't have any recommendations in that area. So we take the status, we look at the prior year report for our risk assessment, and we bring it forward. And I'm happy to report that you didn't have any high risk items. We did have some moderate risk items, and that was the status of prior year. So we did note that there was some in the governance and control environment that was not implemented. So it is required by commissioners' regulations that the board does receive trial balances for all the funds. I know you have the general fund on a monthly basis and the school lunch quarterly, but it is, you have to have status reports for all of them. This is when trial balances are not required, but it is a recommendation of the controller's office, so that we did put that to your attention. Another one is the cash flow projection. So I know the business office does in-house, but if they're not required by education law, but it is recommended by the controller's office to share that with the board. And one of the findings though did get implemented, so you did have to adopt the policy related to conditional appointment. So that was one of them from last year that got implemented. Then we'll go into the accounting and reporting, so the reserves and the fiscal health. The school lunch fund balance does have a negative fund balance for the past 3 years, so that was carried forward, and your unassigned did exceed the budget of the 4%, so it did go past the 4% goal.
Can you say that one again?
The unassigned fund balance was over the 4%, as that it's not allowed to exceed 4%. According to New York State real property tax law, so you can't exceed 4% of next year's budget.
That's something that we've been working on fixing. That was the 15% 2 years ago, and they've gotten it down to still over 4%.
Yeah, and I'm sure last year didn't help either, because I had many school districts that were over the 4% due to COVID. That with the shutdowns, they did have, the school districts did have lots of savings in some areas, so.
Well, COVID, we would have closed out this year, we didn't close that out yet, right?
No, I'm talking about 2020, sorry.
Right, okay.
And then in the benefits, so this is the retiree's health insurance, the 2 findings from last year, so we really needed here. The district doesn't have a process to contact all retirees. Their spouses, just for updates to make sure that they're still eligible. And not having written policies or procedures to monitor the status of all retirees receiving coverage. The extra classroom, we did have, again, findings this year. So this year was 7 out of 15 national package were not properly canceled, so they weren't stamp paid. And you don't utilize pre-numbered cash receipts as suggested by the finance pamphlet number 2 at this SCA. The moderate risk items the current year, so this is the information technology. So that was the only 2 new ones, and that's just right from the information technology report that we just discussed. I am happy to report that some of the prior year findings now are low risk. And one of them was in the information technology. So now you do have formal documented procedures for the review of the watch trail reports. And no employees had the ability to delete journal entries within the accounting system. And you also have adopted a formal written disaster recovery. In the low risk guidance for current year review, so this is, we look at a couple of areas to incorporate into our risk assessment. So we did look at your governance and planning, looked at the budget and development and administration, and we didn't have any issues there. We looked at your budget transfers, looked at the policies and tested some, and we didn't have any issues. We looked at the accounting and reporting, basically looking at your journal entries, your monthly treasurer's reports, and we didn't have any issues there. We also looked at the auditing, so just making sure that you go out for proposal every 5 years for your external auditors, and that you have policies for all your auditors in-house. We also looked at fund balance management, just making sure that basically looking at the purchase orders to make sure that you can't override a purchase order. We also looked at cash receipts, so the collection and posting of receipts, so we didn't have any issues there. We looked at your revenues and billings, your tuition and health service contracts. We looked at your benefits eligibility and calculations, medical benefits, and we also looked at the extra classroom. And the last item we looked at was the information technology, which we looked at with permissions, which we didn't have any issues with as well. And then we're proposing for this year, for 2021, is to look at purchasing, since that is a large area as well. So we looked at information technology, we looked at governance planning, information technology, and we're saying purchasing, unless the audit committee has an area that they would like us to go into, we can change it up. Then I'll take any questions.
All right, Mylene, do you have any? Mylene?
I did, sorry, I was on mute. I did submit my questions to Bridget. I believe one of them was to look at the middle school's extracurriculum activities. I don't know if that's something that showed up on our prior audit report, but if you're looking for a recommendation for something of area 2 audit, my opinion would be to look at the bond having, we passed the bond that was pretty significant, and just, making sure that we're copacetic with everything that we need to be with.
And so the bond area would, that's for your capital projects that you're having, is all the capital projects just start?
They started about a year, maybe 2, almost a year and a half ago.
Okay, all right, so I just wanted to make sure that they didn't, that they're already in process, so it would be something that we could look at. That if they haven't started yet, then I would say we would hold on. But if they're in place, then we can definitely look, so that we can look at capital projects. As for extra classroom, we just hit a surface level, so we didn't do an in-depth study of the extra classroom, we just tested the sample. But that is another area that we can do in depth report, just like the information technology.
Lee, do you have any questions? No, I'm good. Jackie? No, I do not. Mark?
I'm good, I was on mute, so you guys just looked at.
All right. My questions are more for my administration, not really for you. I read through the whole plan. Some of these things, though, the moderates, they were high, so I'm happy to see that they're all down in moderates now, because in the 30th, I'm there. You only do a 2-year, audit?
Right, yeah, we started in 2019.
Oh, yeah, that's right, you guys renewed it. Okay, right. Okay, so I'll have to go with the other ones, but, they were high in the past orders. It looks like they've gone down. So, I don't have any questions for you per se, I have more for my, administration.
I do have one question, I'm sorry, Irene. Regarding the lunch fund balance, what we're putting in there, what we're budgeting for, we seem to be getting into the same predicament every year where we're putting significant monies transferred there.
What's the question,
Is this, I'm sorry, yeah, that would be great, I had a question, but that.
You know, that was an observation, we all do that. What was the question?
But, I mean, in your experience and, auditing other districts, are we sort of in the norm or are we on the high end?
I would say you're in the middle. I do have school districts that are on the opposite end too. They have too much fund balance. And then I have a lot of the school districts, if I have to say, mainly I think you're in the norm because you have a negative, and that all came into place when they put in the health and wellness for the school lunch program. So the food was costing more, and so yes, I have that.
For those districts that you see that are actually in the positive, what are they doing differently than other districts?
Some of them are basically have it in-house, so they don't have a food service company, and basically they're able to provide, I guess, more lunches. I heard that they opened it up to more like, say, Boar's Head sandwiches, or, you know, they took initiatives to go further. To, you know, area to get more students in.
And this is something that Eileen and I have been asking for in the past. So what are they doing consortiums?
They're not, let's say, consortiums. They either have their own, basically, I think they hire a school lunch director and they do it in-house. So they have someone come in and they have a school lunch program. And their own employees, basically.
Right.
Do you know what districts do it, or any big districts doing it? Large ones?
Are you allowed to say?
I can't divulge that. But I can definitely say there are definitely, I think it would probably, I'm trying to think of which ones have it, I can't remember like exactly which ones, but I think it might have been the larger ones that had it, some in-house. And some school districts did take service management and they were trying to get better rates, I know.
Right.
Negotiate their management costs with the food service companies as well.
This year, we're not paying for the food,
Is it
though.
something that you can look into, because, I mean,
Yeah,
I've been,
wait, Marlene, are there any more questions for Ally? I don't want to keep her on the line if we have questions for administration.
Well, I was just thinking in terms
I
of
think
this
the
year.
only thing we need to do is to agree on what the next audit item would be, and my recommendation would be the bond.
So, what was the other item that you said, Ally, you need more?
We were gonna look at purchasing, but we can look at,
Well, I agree with purchasing as well, especially with COVID.
But we always get an extra, I would say, bond would be the extra one that you would look at, correct? Don't we usually get an extra one that we
we look at one
We
cycle,
request-
so we do the risk assessment and then we do one cycle, so it would be either purchasing or capital projects.
Okay, so maybe purchasing.
Yeah, because we can do capital projects again next year, so.
Yeah, and maybe if it's even starting, more, projects are getting closed out, that would be even better for us to look at.
Right, right.
It's such a
They're all
year-end.
not, none of them is closed out yet, none of the major stuff that's really closed out yet.
They're getting towards completion just so that we can see the disbursement.
how long have you been with us?
2 years.
2 years, okay, because the other company, they gave us, we got like a bonus to pick one besides the one that you guys picked. I guess you don't do that.
People online can't.
Yeah, it was, I think it was just for the proposal, was just for one cycle and the risk assessment.
Okay, thank you.
All right, does anybody have any more questions to Ally? No, we can let you go then if you want to leave. We can hang out if you want.
That's okay, okay, thank you, it was nice seeing everybody virtually.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, have a good evening, just stay.
Bye-bye now. All right, so I'm gonna go with some of my questions here, and there's a Linda and Richard, I would guess. This is only the 2 year, I have to go back and find out the ones from before that. And again, they knocked us down a bit. Obviously, we know that 4% is not being met. I mean, we talked about that last year, the year before, the year before, the year before. So we are getting it down, but it's not being met. It will be met this year, correct?
Yes, a part of the discussion for tonight is discussing transfers to, which we'll get into later, to utilize, items that were not able to be done because, not able to be done because of COVID, and dealing with the pandemic and the district being out. We're looking,
What is a good excuse? That's like this year, for this year, but there's many years that we just over budget, and that's why we have higher than 4%. So, again, I'm gonna say this again, I've been saying it for years, but I'll say it again. Those numbers have to be more accurate, less pushing for the pushing.
yes,
But be more accurate. I've been told that we are one of the higher pushing districts. In someone's experience, who works in a lot of districts. Oh, I won't say that is, though, I can't. So the trial balances, these things that are on here for 2 years, how come they're not being done? How come now we're getting it for the second year? When we got the recommendation the first time, why wasn't it fixed? There's like 3 or 4 of them on each report.
every school district obviously goes through internal audits, and every internal auditor is required to provide anything, even if it's not something that's required, so trial
I'm talking
balances.
about the moderate, guys, not the low, I'm talking about the moderate.
Same
Like,
thing,
revenue appropriations has been brought, on a monthly basis, and we're getting the school income on a quarterly basis, and they say we should get it all on a monthly basis. So how come we're not getting it all on a monthly basis? What is the problem then?
last year, that's when the school lunch started to be put on. We are working towards getting it on a monthly basis. And
Well, if
that
they have it on a quarterly, why don't we have it on a monthly?
we can
You guys
certainly,
don't get a monthly report? Good luck, then request.
yes, we can certainly do that.
So, yeah, so that should have been a no-brainer, it actually not have been on this. We're not getting them on a monthly basis either.
The federal government's paying for the lunch this year. I think it's a little different.
Yes, we'll get to those.
We're going back 2 years, it's one over 2 years, that before COVID and now after COVID. I mean, why weren't we getting, and they're recommended to be submitted, it's well down, piece of paper. That we should get monthly, let's get it in, these are silly things that we shouldn't have on these reports.
Thank you.
So historically, Connectclub has never done trial balances, just because
I
of the
know.
recommendation,
I
so
know,
if that's what the board would like to do, we can certainly provide trial balances.
well, that's what it's saying, so that we can have, we can carry out our fiduciary responsibilities, and, if it's on there 2 years, why are we ignoring it? I don't get it. The other one, the new one that's on for this year. The district does not have a system in place to receive and address anonymous complaints related to fraud, waste, or abuse of district resources. That seems like a very easy thing to fix. I mean, so we're gonna get that fixed this year? It's a moderate level.
Yes, and we have provided what other districts do, so we're going to follow suit, we'll provide that to the board of ed, and if that's the way that you would like to go, we will go back to the same way as other districts.
Alright, so, that was pretty much my questions. I just wanna make sure that, any moderate level risk, I mean, the low, we should fix those too, but the moderate levels, especially like these, retirees, that's what we had an issue with that at one point, I remember. I can't go into specifics because it's about an individual, but I think that those are the things that we should fix. The cash receipts and disbursements, I think we gotta stay paid on it. These like no-brainers that are giving us a lot of risk, so we can fix very quickly. Right? So can we make sure that we don't have any repeat moderates next year?
I had provided to Mylan's email of an explanation for that, so we are now stamping paid on invoices. We sent a memo to the central treasurers, and the two individuals are fairly new in those positions, so yes, absolutely, I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I mean, they're easy ones. They're not, and nobody should be in trouble for any of that. They're easy ones, easy fixes. We just have to be on top of them.
Yes,
Well, not me, you, but.
Yep.
My biggest concern, and I don't know who answers this, my biggest concern is the, server rooms. At Sycamore and at Elementary, at Cherokee and Sycamore. That's the problem, there's no fire extinguisher in Cherokee, in those rooms. Like, that's a big problem, so who's in charge of that?
so that is working with Dean.
Use it as a storage, that's the problem.
Yes. That is
Who does
working
that
with,
part?
that's with working with Dean and with technology to make sure that we do all those as quickly as possible.
Okay, all right, because I don't want to see those on there again. God forbid, that's a lot of Anyway, the rest was all okay. Everything said, you know, it was all good, low risk stuff. I mean, the disaster recovery plan, I thought we'd do those. I thought we had those.
Yes, that's what it says, we
Yes,
have
we did
that.
it, right. No, it said we did, sorry, that one. Check okay, I wrote okay, check okay, I wrote on all these. All right, so that was good. And there was very little on the report that we have to be concerned with, but the little that was there, most of them were there for the second year. That, you know, that's what it's like, because they're little, easy, quick fixes. And I know COVID, things got put on the back burner, but we gotta be on top of that, especially, you know, fire extinguisher in the server room. So that's all I have on that.
So I mean, when are we gonna address the lunch thing? Because you know that's been my focus for the last few years.
Eileen, I'll tell you this. May 19th, I will bring it up again if I'm still here. And I will fight with you for the lunch thing again. And we will get it done.
Marlene, how is it affecting this year though? I thought this year there was grants.
This year we shouldn't owe money, I don't think, but we'll have Bridget talk about that.
Bridget, can you elaborate?
Well, why don't you do that during the budget presentation, Bridget? Can you do that?
With owing money for food service,
Yeah, can you just, you know, tell us where we're at on the food service part? for
with
this year?
receiving
Because aren't we
funds
getting all
from the
federally funded?
state, you mean?
All right, might as well put it on now. Aren't we getting all federally funded for that this year?
Yes, we are.
So we're not gonna have a negative balance this year.
So obviously, food service, the number of meals are down, so it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to receive everything. But this is something that we're monitoring almost on a daily basis because the state of New York was quite delayed in getting out reimbursements to school districts, which is frustrating for everyone. But to just comment quickly, from before with Ali's presentation and food service in general, the Connectclub School District is a much different operation from many. The highest expenditure for school lunch is the food service workers. We pay out their salary, pay out their benefits, so that's something we're really going to have to look at if we're looking to make a change.
But you heard the auditor, she said that a lot of the school districts use their own people, and that's how they're actually, those are the ones that she said were saving money. Myla, did you hear that?
That's what I heard.
Right.
Yes, I'm just saying that right now we
That's
have a
contrary
hybrid.
to what you're telling me, Bridget, so,
No, I'm saying that we have a hybrid scenario right now, so we utilize our own employees, but we also have an outside consultant.
okay, so then, what Myla and I are saying is correct, we want to further look into the, what was that lady's name, like, Myla?
The one that just spoke? The one that just spoke?
No, the one from that we sat down with.
Oh, I don't remember,
Nancy
but
from
it should be,
Silverstone.
I mean, Bridget should have those in her notes, but
Yes,
I do.
I do, and the last time the board had requested, I had gone out and, did my due diligence with Sejum, which was the task that I was asked to do. I also reached out to Silver Spoon, and she's a bit.
So, well, Linda and I and Myla sat with this woman. Linda, who was that woman? She was from the custodian.
Nancy Padron.
That's it. So maybe we need to bring her back in and see what we do with that. Myla, I think it's too late for this year, obviously. But
I think it's something, I agree with you, it's a conversation we'll start having in May.
Yeah.
I don't know how long the process takes, the transition takes, I know it's a lengthy process.
She's going through the year. So if we keep putting it off, but I mean, well, let's try it next year. But if we don't try it now and we don't say, let's do this and save the money, then every year we're gonna say, oh, well, the 6 year, let's put up one more year, no, because that's, So I'm with you there, Myron. All right, no more questions about the audit? No? Okay. I need a motion in a second to adjourn the audit committee meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna motion in a second to resume the business meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're now back to the business meeting. Drinks again. All right, Jesse, what are we up to here?
Changes the meeting agenda.
There are no changes that I know of right now, right? Yeah, I don't have any changes. So I need, a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the February 23rd, 2021 Board of Education meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the March 1, 2021 special meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm abstaining, I wasn't there.
Oh, okay, that's fine. We were on there for 3.5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I was there, yes, I'm sorry, yes, I was there.
Julia, that's why you were.
Yeah, I say yes.
Okay, okay. And now we have the student government report. We have the students in the room, lady?
We do, we have Carmela and Charlotte. I think I said-
Okay, great.
They're heading over to the podium.
Okay, thank you.
So for student government, we have a virtual talent show coming up on March 22nd. It's the same as how we did last year, where everyone sends a video of them doing talent together with their family and themselves and siblings. And they all send it to the student government email, yeah. And then we all collaborate the videos into one and post it on YouTube. And then teachers get to judge, and the winners are picked. And basically, we give out gift cards supporting local businesses. It's not a fundraiser; we basically are just supporting local businesses. It was really popular last year, so I think it's definitely going to be a hit this year, especially because of everything going on. We also did PSI Love You Day last month on the 12th. We asked everyone to wear purple. We also sold shirts that had the PSI Love You Day logo on it. We made a big profit, and we're actually going to donate $500 to the PSI Love You Foundation. It felt like a normal school day. I definitely will say that I really did like that day. It did bring everyone together in some sort of way. So I really did like that, and I think the rest of the school did too. For the freshmen, they're planning to have a virtual community cupcake contest. They're just starting to plan this now. I don't really know any more information other than that. And also they're planning a virtual merch store. They're also working on that too. I don't really know any more information besides that.
So although you've probably gotten a plethora of emails and phone calls about it, there is a ring sale going on right now. It is being run by both the sophomores and the juniors this year because the juniors did not get an opportunity to do the sophomore tradition last year because of the pandemic. So the rings are being sold in the school from March 9th to the 12th. They are going to be in the hallway outside of the guidance office. This year we do not only have rings. We have bracelets, we have necklaces. And if you buy something, you will get a complimentary Connectclub windbreaker. So that's something to look forward to. Any grade can purchase, and that is the ring event. So the sophomore class is also doing a virtual trivia night. It's going to be both in person and virtual. Teams are $5, singles are $2, and single people will be added on to a team. It will be both virtual and person, and any grade is welcome. The seniors are planning a paintball event. Right now, a survey is just going on about that. We do not have any plans set in stone. And caps and gowns, the date for that is going to be March 25th, so make sure to order your caps and gowns. Distribution. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Sorry about that, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna apologize for my voice. I'm being texted that you can't really understand me.
I'm also gonna apologize for being virtual. I am under the our team as per Suffolk County Department of Health, providing philanthropy fee in central office with everybody, so I apologize in advance.
No problem, Jackie. My libido is becoming clear, so I'll try to, I can't do anything about my voice, I'm sorry, I lost it, it's gone. Okay, we're gonna move on to recommended actions, personnel matters. I need a motion and a second to approve personnel matters, schedule 1, resignations, terminations, leaves of absences.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any questions, any issues with schedule 1?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion and a second to approve personnel matters, Schedule 2, appointments, tenure, salary changes.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, anybody have any, questions or issues?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, recommended action, financial matters. I have some, okay. I need a motion and a second to approve financial matters out of 2 through 5.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All right, anybody have any questions?
I'll wait till the next report.
Okay, well, I do, I have some on this one. On the overtime report, oh no, we went over this. The overtime was not, administration, it was, clerical units and things like that, okay. So that's fine there. Treasurer's report, no, you didn't have anything on the treasurer's report? I know, Bridget, you said there's something about the interest rate, we were talking about that. And, you are looking into now increasing them, there are some accounts that we cannot increase.
Yes,
Okay, and that's all in that email?
that's all in that email, yes.
Okay, all right, I did get a lot of content today, and, the day of the meeting is very hard to review things, the day of the meeting, so I really would like those, and again, some of the things, although there was a lot of things that you did give me, earlier, so that's fine. Sorry about that. All right, so, where am I now? That's the reports. So all in favor to accept the, reports items 2 through 5?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, now we're up to the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second to approve items 2 through 16.
Motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, questions?
I'm just curious, when we get a donation, when we get a
Lady, can
donation,
you put your speaker,
It's on.
your microphone
it's on,
Thank you.
when we get a donation, does everyone say, I said a thank you? I said, no, just tell the check. Does everyone say, no, thank you?
Lee, the microphone being on is good, but you gotta speak into it so I can hear you.
I will check on that to make sure.
Thank you.
All right. Jackie, you have anything for the consent agenda?
Negative.
Mylene?
I see the calendars on the next agenda, so I don't know if anybody had to take, had a minute to look at that.
Actually, I did too, Mylene, it's actually one of my questions. Mine was more about the February break and how we talked about this last year, remember? And it's that we always wind up using the February break and then we take away the nice days in May. I'd like to know if there was any issues with, any of the unions and why wouldn't, I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. I think teachers would rather be off in May than February, but, I'd like to know, and staff and everybody else. So I'd like to know if there's any issues as to why we put those breaks in February instead of like in the warmer days. Like, why don't we do that?
So we follow generally the BOCES calendar, and that way our students who attend any of our special education programs as well as our CTE programs will have the number of instructional days that they need. There was no conversation about February. Generally, we take the days out of the April break first, and that's been historically how we have.
Right, usually we use the February, everybody takes the February break,
Correct.
so, right.
So
And I've learned this like a couple of times, Dean, I know we follow the BOCES calendar, but we talked about this last year, there's gotta be a way to work around it, so our kids look at their instructional days, and our regular students don't miss out on snow days, like, if there's a snow day, it doesn't come out of the February break, because we've already used that, it comes out of May, nice days.
yeah, so none of the bargaining units that we consult with regards to the calendar had any comment or feedback regarding those dates or the issues. The state
I mean,
did,
have we ever asked them, can we put it out there and ask the unions what they would, if they would,
we ask every year for their feedback and input. Prior to doing this, we go back and forth, and the one that is, the draft that's in front of you tonight is the one that was agreed upon by the bargaining units.
Okay, all right. Nobody wants to change it, I have no problem there. Madeline, what did you have on the calendar, the same as me?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but I also, again, I'm sure this is something that Reza and Dean would have a discussion, is, if the staff is interested in, if we do have these really bad days, when we have a school closure, would virtual be an option to save those days in May?
So the state did run a pilot this year, allowing districts to do that. We did one day of a virtual instruction when we did have a snow closure, so it is definitely something we will follow up with the CTA about.
All right, I have a couple more questions. On the consultant services contracts, number 6 and 7, how many children, do each of these contracts service? Anybody?
I don't have an actual number for that. The first one is a very specialized augmentative communication specialist. And anytime that we have an IEP that needs that, this is the person who would do that. I don't have an exact number of how many students have that on their IEP, but I know we do have quite a few in the district that have augmentative communication.
Okay, so that's okay, there's more than one, no, that's all right.
Oh, there's definitely more than one.
Are either one of these consultants new consultants, or have we used them in the past, the same ones?
I do believe that they're both long-standing relationships with the district.
Okay, why are we approving them so late then?
I don't know, because I have to look at why that might have happened.
Usually the consultant contracts by now are done, it's just some special, agreement services, or if they're brand new.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you that. That would have to be in the special education department.
All right, can you get back to me on that, please?
Sure.
Okay, and then, where are these services performed? In our buildings, or elsewhere? Where are these services performed?
So the job coaching is out in the field. That's the second one.
Right.
Augmentative communication, evaluations, that I would have to look at. I think that's dependent on what kind of services the child needs.
Just quickly, I looked at the contracts and they are for summer services, so.
All summer services?
Yeah.
That's why you're approving it now? Okay. All right, that makes sense. I couldn't see that. I mean, mine was approved quickly. Oh, July 8th to August 16th. Okay, I see it now. All right, but then the other one is, no, that's it. Okay, good enough. Thank you, Lisa. That's that. That was that one. That was that one. Okay, the next question is the bonds. Is John there?
He is, he's heading over to me.
All right.
Hello,
So,
Eileen.
these contracts 1 through 4 for Cherokee, Slocum, and the high school press box.
Correct.
What exactly in each room in Cherokee and Slocum? What are we doing there? And which rooms are these?
At Cherokee, this work surrounds the LGI and the library. The lion's share of work is to provide fresh air to all of the surrounding offices and workspaces around the library.
Is this in anticipation of redoing the libraries?
This is part of it, yes.
Okay, so here's my issue. With COVID, we're putting kids, we're gonna talk about a reopening plan and putting all these kids in there. My problem is a capital bond can be used for any sort of improvement. And I know that the community voted yes on this bond, but at this point, we didn't know that, at that point, they didn't know about COVID. Our libraries are not being used as libraries right now. They're being used as, lounges, correct? Teacher lounge?
I don't believe that's the case.
That's how you told us at the last executive meeting. I specifically asked the same question.
I just was in Sycamore this afternoon and walked past the library, and it was set up for students, so I can't tell you exactly how it is in every single
Okay, well,
building.
some of the libraries, from what I'm told, and that, it's not a problem, I mean, you need a room, you gotta use the rooms for something. But my problem is, I don't wanna do all this work for brand new libraries, and then we have to, we get another uptick in the COVID,
we're going to close down again, and then we have to socially distance again. I would rather save this money right now and, you know, use it in case we have to build an extra classroom or rent the trailers so that we can get kids back to school safely. So I'm a little concerned about that. I don't know. I think I would pull that one for a separate vote.
Can I just speak a little bit further to that, for a little clarification? As I said at Cherokee, this is not just the library. This is many of the offices that surround that portion of the building. The mechanical system in that building was not designed to provide fresh air and air-conditioned air as per the building code. When it was
Didn't you
built-
just say, John, excuse me, but didn't you just say, that it is part of the library bond?
It is part of the library, yes. So the mechanical system for the Cherokee Library is located on the second floor. It services the LGI, the large group instructional space upstairs, as well as the library. But in evaluating the building and looking at the ventilation system throughout the building, we identified multiple areas around that general area where we are now able to address it by increasing the amount of ductwork and bringing those areas up to current day codes. So in the same sense, if you're saying rent a trailer or get some sort of service, you know, some of the.
Well, I'm saying if we're gonna need, you know, we're gonna do capital improvements, and we don't know what COVID is taking us, and we might need space. I'm a little nervous about spending money on, libraries right now, if we're gonna need space for kids to actually be in school.
And-
We have this whole big elaborate library, but nobody's allowed to use it because they're not allowed in there.
And I can totally appreciate that. The bond is
And I'm
very,
not saying don't do the libraries, I'm
No.
saying wait and see what happens with COVID.
understood. I just want to make sure that you're clear. You know, this does address the library, but it also addresses, I think it's 7 peripheral rooms at Cherokee and brings them up to current day ventilation code. So those are offices, those are spaces that children are in, those are spaces that we are utilizing, but they are not meeting today's regulation code. This brings them into current day code. So
Okay,
we are increasing spaces.
yeah, I'm still gonna have it pulled for a separate vote,
Understood. I just wanted you to be clear.
but I understand what you're saying, and I get that, I don't think that's a bad thing, I'm just, I want to vote for separate.
Understood.
Okay, number 10, the facility use, we already approved all these on the list. Why are we doing this now, why is it all here again?
There's one new one.
So why is everybody back on the list?
Because that's. I don't answer for that.
Okay, well, it's not
I
really
think it's
here,
just, yeah, I think it's for your reference.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, well, so, but we need to know when it's just one person, just that one person was on there. Because we already approved most of them on there.
So,
All right.
that's what you could process the new one.
Okay, All right,
It's in
thank
the
you, Jen.
public content on board.
oh, okay, all right, thank you. I just saw the whole list, and I'm like, wait, I've already approved this one, this one, this. All right, I don't know who does this. What is a current DC license? I don't even know how to say that. It's number 11. It's a big rejection, but what is it? And are we going back out to bid? Do we need it? Like, why are we? What is it?
It's something specific for software, and
Right.
it's this interesting scenario where one provider picks it up and then is able to extend it to school districts. So that's what
Okay.
it's for. However, nobody responded to the bid. That's why we're asking for rejection.
But what is the license? What is it exactly?
That I'm not sure.
And now that we're not bidding for it, do we actually need it? Like, why do we go out to bid if we really don't need it? Because we're rejecting it, or we go back out to bid? Is something we
I think
need?
the expectation is that we go back out to bid for the item.
Okay, what is it then? Then explain to me what that exactly means. I know what a software license is. Is this a program? What is this?
I will get you a detailed explanation of what the service is.
All right, so then, yeah, we can, I mean, I can accept that, you know, I can vote for that today, but I do want to know what that is. You know, we have the software license, Microsoft agreement, you know, Excel, Word, you know, all the different software programs give you a license. I just never heard that word. It's just a curiosity. Okay, change order. It's, you know, we're getting rid of $3,000, Dawn.
No, we're getting $3,000 back. This refers to scope of work over the summer. That
Right, because we're not doing a fence and a gate.
Correct. So the girls' locker room, they wanted storage in the showers in the girls' locker room.
Okay,
That's the way it was designed upon watching the construction happen this past summer. realizing that if we put a gate across it, it would preclude us from using the ADA compliant shower that's in that area. I told the contractor not to put the gate up there, and as such, we get a credit for that.
Awesome, thank you. Number 13 and 14, I want to vote for a separate vote, please, Jesse.
13 and 14.
Yeah.
13 and 14 or 14 and 15?
13 and 14. And 15. No, yeah, and 15. Let's count.
No.
13 and 14 is CTA.
14 and 15 are.
Well, then what they adding here that I'm missing? Hold on, I gotta go do the electronic version. Then I'm missing one because I only have up to 15. It's not numbered right or something on the printout. Hold on. All right, so we got consent agenda. Donation, health and welfare, industry union free, consultant 67, special ed, project, that's the bond, and that's the bid rejection. So, 13, so there's a bid rejection and a bond issue change order. Oh, that's what I don't have. What's the change order?
I think
I think you just spoke about that.
that's what you spoke about.
How come I have a number different for that? Hold on, let me see what I got here.
Because you're forgetting that number 1 is the entire approval, so there's no item in number 1.
No, Linda, I'm looking at the printout and the electronic version of it. So the printout that I got mailed to me, that I have in my hands, that you printed out, you can add something to it. You understand what I'm saying? I have the printout that Jesse gave me. And it's not matching the one that's on the screen, and that's what I'm confused about now, because I'm missing one. Lucy Buckley, IntelliCheck. Health and welfare is 4. Agreement is 5. Consultant 6 and 7 hours on right. 8 is the special education. 9 is special education. That's what I'm missing. I'm missing a special education service contract. And only 1, you guys have 2. That's the problem.
I believe
Are
that
you going-
second one, Eileen, just so you're aware, I printed those out Friday morning.
Yeah, no, I know, that's what I'm saying, so that's why I just wanted to go through this.
So that
Okay,
second
yeah.
one is from Three Village, and it's, I
Got
think
it,
it just
that's
received
fine,
it
I
that
just want to know
morning.
where my numbering went off.
Yeah.
Alright, so, the ones that I want to push are now gonna be 15 and 16 and 17.
14,
No.
15, and 16.
14, 15, yeah, I'm looking 14, 15, and 16.
So just in total, it's 10, 14, 15, and 16.
Yes, separate votes. Okay, anybody else have any questions on the consent agenda?
Yeah, I have a question. So why are you pulling the library? Is it because, I mean, I think these projects are gonna take about a year.
Eileen, I'm just pulling it for a separate vote, so you know,
Separate, I know separate vote for what, for what,
because I don't think I'm gonna go along with the jury, so I want to vote separately.
did I have the work done?
I didn't say what I was doing, I just said I want to vote for a separate vote.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, that's big, it's going through, I'm not worried about it. I gave my reasons before, earlier. All right, so does anybody else have any more questions? No,
Not
okay.
on this part, I got questions when we get to reopen.
All right, well, that's at the end, that's the discussion. So, I need a motion and a second to approve items 2 through 9.
Motion.
Hold on, 2 through 9, 11, and 12, right?
And 13.
And 13, 11, 12, and 13.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Now I need a separate vote, we'll do them one at a time. Number 10.
Aye.
I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Name what it is, name
Oh,
what
no,
it,
motion and a second is already there. The bond issue phase 3. I need Everybody's vote. Mylene?
I only have a motion, can I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, Anita, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. That's it, the motion goes through. Number,
I didn't hear Jackie or Nyland.
oh, Jackie and Mark said aye.
Marlon?
And Nyland,
I didn't hear my,
Aye.
yeah, that's what it
thank
And
you.
Lisa? Okay. All right, number, 14, right, that's the next one, Jess?
Yeah.
Okay, number 14. That's the CTA agreements, there's 2 of them. Number 14 is the first one. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mark, what do you say?
Aye.
Jackie?
I'm gonna abstain.
I'm abstaining as well. Number 15. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
I need all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining from this as well. And number 16. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
That's the calendar. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Lee, what do you say?
Aye.
All right, I'm abstaining as well, that's been approved. I'd like to, actually, hopefully get some unions and see what they think about, the ideas that Mylan and I put up. Okay, the next is, new business, discussion items. We're gonna go with Linda for the re-entry proposal. Or Dean, I'm not really sure, who's doing this?
Dr. Adams will start, and I will walk everybody through the remainder of the presentation.
Betsy, we're gonna be able to put up the PowerPoint or no?
I mean, I'm showing it in the room and they'll be able to see it at home, like on the smart board in the live stream, but I can capture my screen. So I'm not on.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect. All right, so, I'm gonna move on to the second slide.
Linda, why can't we do a share screen? I don't understand why that can't happen.
I'm doing it right now for you guys.
I can see it.
You
I
can,
can see it as well.
okay, perfect.
Me too.
Thank you.
It's not running though. The presentation is showing the slides on the side as well.
Yeah, that's the way it runs on here.
Okay.
That's the way it runs on this computer. There's nothing.
Okay, that's fine. So, slide number 2, please. Okay, so, this is just a brief timeline. Everybody's pretty familiar with the timeline. On July 13, 2020, Governor Cuomo announced the metrics for opening schools in New York State. He stated that the rolling 14-day infection rate was at or below 5%, and schools would close if the regional infection rate rose above 9% using a rolling 9-day average. In October 2020, Governor Cuomo changed the rules, created the micro-cluster initiative, targeting communities that had a higher infection rate than their surrounding areas. On January 2021, communities across the state peaked above the infection rates at the micro-cluster initiatives, but schools remained open. So even though the rules are laid out, they seem to be constantly evolving and changing as we know more about the disease. And and how the world is reacting to it. In February 2021, the Suffolk County Department of Health Service guidance highlighted opening guidance barriers to districts ensuring that if they can't social distance of at least 6 feet, then a physical barrier is mandatory. I will say that this always existed in the guidance, but there was other guidance from New York State that superseded that said students must be socially distanced as long as possible during the school day. However, in speaking with the Suffolk County Department of Health, they put in writing that if there is not the ability to socially distance, that at least 6 foot, that a physical barrier is maintained between individuals while in school facilities. That was put in place a few weeks ago when they started to work with Sachem, as Sachem began to bring their students back on a rolling schedule, and they gave us that same information about a week ago, actually. So next, move to the next slide. The biggest issue that's different on this slide than all of our reopening slides was that they've added to their guidance that by adding more people to a classroom increases the density, which in turn will create more quarantine orders for students if there were to be a positive case among the student body. And now I'm going to ask you to go to the next slide, which is the elementary reopening plan, of which there's changes only in certain grade levels, and I'm going to ask Mr. Middleman to take it up from there.
Thank you. Yes, so we're very excited about the opportunity to present the plan to the education community about bringing all of our students back in person to daily instruction. What we did is we highlighted the changes from the original reopening presentation so that you can identify the differences as we go forward. I won't read through the entire thing, but I will highlight the differences and the changes that will be coming once the board approves the digital plan. So arrival and dismissal will continue on schedule as it has been occurring in October and September of 2020. The change to students' placement in person will begin on Friday, March 12th for 4th and 5th grade students. Will literally move together into one teacher's classroom. Again, masks will be worn with a barrier on each desk. The district is revisiting the 3rd grade instrumental music instruction after March 15th, when the 4th and 5th grade students return to one classroom. Chorus continues to be suspended and will be revisited if the CDC or NYSED guidelines are revised as far as spacing. If the plan is approved, parents and guardians may choose to move their children from fully virtual instruction to daily in-person instruction, or from in-person instruction to fully virtual. Families who intend to switch their children's learning platform are asked to complete a survey by Friday, March 12th, 2021. Upon the completion of the survey, their building principal will contact the elementary parents who answer the survey to change their child's educational platform during the week of March 15th. Those switches to in-person or fully virtual instruction will begin on Monday, March 22nd. For universal pre-kindergarten, our goal is to return all of our students to in-person instruction daily. This may include location changes, and we anticipate to have that completed and students return full-time by March 22nd. For the secondary reopening, we are.
Hey, Dean, can I ask you something? Jackie, let's let the plan go through first, and then we'll table up everything in, please. Okay, that's fine. Just write down your questions, and then, answer them at the end. That's where the presentation goes through, okay?
So we are going.
No problem.
Okay, sorry. So for the secondary reopening, we're looking to offer 2 options: fully in-person instruction and fully virtual instruction. For our middle school programs, in-person daily instruction will remain in cohorts as much as practical, and their schedule remains the same. There will be no hybrid option for middle school students, and no movement of barriers will occur. So the barriers will remain on the students' desks throughout the instructional day. Switches to in-person or fully virtual instruction will begin on the same schedule as the return to full in-person instruction. Parent requests for change from in-person to fully virtual must be made on a survey that I spoke about earlier completed by March 12th. There will be one more opportunity to change platforms at the beginning of the fourth marking period. This is one big change for us. The absent full-time in-person students could no longer log in as virtual students. And the return phase-in is Monday, March 15th for all 8th graders and Monday, March 22nd for 6th and 7th graders. Next slide. For the secondary hybrid instruction program at Connectclub High School, again, Connectclub High School is in-person instruction. The schedule will remain the same for students. There will be no barriers that are moving throughout the hallways. Those barriers will be fixed to the student desks. Again, there'll be no longer a hybrid option for high school students. The switches to in-person or fully virtual will begin on the same schedule as the return to full in-person instruction. Again, parent requests for in-person or fully virtual must be made on the survey by March 12th. Again, there'll be one more opportunity to change platforms at the beginning of the fourth marking period. And again, absent full-time in-person students can no longer log in as virtual students. The return phase back is Monday, March 15th for all 9th and 12th graders, and Monday, March 22nd for all 10th and 11th graders. There's no change to how the district will operate if we are closed due to either a weather-related event or a COVID experience. So instructional technology, some big changes and shifts we're very excited about. We finally have our Smart School funding application was approved in February, about a week and a half ago. As of March 1st, the district technology team has distributed all requested Chromebooks to hybrid and in-person secondary students and to our fully virtual elementary students. Based on feedback from our administration, our technology team, and the Student Engagement and Expectations Committee that we held recently, we have developed a plan for all secondary students to receive a district-issued device, whether they request one or not. The following items will be implemented as part of the plan. All students in grades 6 through 12 must use a district-provided Chromebook while in school and at home. Each building's administration is distributing these Chromebooks to the remaining students. Once all students receive their devices, I will distribute a Chromebook expectation to students and their families, outlining procedures they must follow, including the requirement that they bring their devices back and forth to school on a daily basis. Phase 2, district Chromebooks will be handed out to our economically disadvantaged elementary students until we have our second shipment. Once we, hopefully before the end of the school year. Phase 3 will be to complete our K-12 one-to-one initiative by purchasing devices for all of our kindergarten through grade 5, and that we anticipate by June of 2021. As we continue our digital transition, student access to Wi-Fi devices and staff professional development will continue to be our priority. And I cannot thank our teachers and staff enough for their hard work, professionalism, and flexibility throughout this year and their continued support of our one-to-one initiative. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Bill Reali for our transportation and food services update.
For transportation, we will continue where all parents must screen children prior to arriving at a bus stop for temperature and any other COVID symptoms. Students must maintain social distancing at bus stops. Face coverings must be worn at all times when on school buses and when waiting for the board and disembark the school bus. Students will be sharing bus seats and must sit as per seating chart for contact tracing purposes, and arrival and dismissal times will remain the same there. As far as food service, K-5, there's no change in the current lunch process. Meals will continue to be eaten at their desks in their classrooms. 6 through 8, cafeterias will be utilized as it's safe to do so, with some classes continuing to eat in their classrooms. 9 to 12, the cafeteria will be utilized as it is safe to do so. Some students will report to the auditorium, and they'll be able to eat their lunch socially distanced with adult supervision. And now back to you.
So there really are no protocol changes for health and safety. The healthy hygiene practices, these really haven't changed. The CDC has not changed their guidelines for what the symptoms are of COVID. You're all very well aware of them, so I'm not going to read them out loud. Same health and safety check, next slide. All staff should be completing a screening, same screening as the students. Every time a staff member swipes in, they're saying that they're healthy and that they answer no to all the questions on that slide. Next slide is the same thing for parents and guardians. It's a daily required screening for the temperature check prior to students being placed on a bus or transporting the students to school. Everyone has a QR code. This hasn't changed either. The biggest change here is that on the next slide, that where 6 foot of social distancing cannot be maintained, polycarbonate barriers will be on each desk. We've already put in a purchase order for thousands more to replace some that are scratched, which would have impact on the students being able to see through them and being engaged in the lesson, as well as to put more on desks when the desk returns to the classrooms. Physical education remains the same, that guidance has not changed, and the guidance has not changed for orchestra or band. They still need to be more than 6 feet apart. Limiting exposures, we are reevaluating these activities as the CDC or the governor creates executive orders to change the guidelines on gatherings and the number of gatherings and where the gatherings are. We are keeping a close watch on that for what we could potentially do for our gatherings at the end of the year, whether that is student assemblies or graduation, moving up, our proms and the like. We are staying on top of any changes that happen. There's been no change in the health and safety management of ill persons in the building. They'll be sent to the health office for assessment. They go into an isolation room, and they're sent home from there. So that has not changed. Next slide. Again, the return after illness. If it was not COVID-19, this is normal every year, 48 hours without a fever and without a fever-reducing medicine, and written note from healthcare providers saying they're clear to return to school. So none of this has changed at all. I'm going to ask Mr. Allen to speak to the cleaning and disinfection on this slide, please.
So we're really not changing anything that we've been doing for the past 12 months at this point. The first time I spoke about it was last March when we were over at Sycamore. I explained all the different cleaning protocols that we have, so those are all staying in place. And we're fine-tuning that process as we go along. We're trying to be more efficient, more effective in how we're doing things. The shields, they're definitely a big challenge. So purchasing a whole lot more will actually save us a lot of manpower and efforts throughout the course of the day. So that's a huge help. One of the things that we are constantly doing as a plant facility department is looking at maintaining, if not improving, our heating, ventilation, and fresh air systems throughout the district. We are constantly assessing it. We have a great staff of guys in the maintenance team who go around and do a tremendous amount of work. When we start thinking about 1.4 million square feet of interior spaces in this district, we have a team of 3, or actually at this moment 2 HVAC mechanics who work throughout the course of the district, as well as supported by some electricians and general maintenance mechanics and everything else. But in these reviews, we're constantly finding and identifying equipment. Partially because we've stressed a lot of this equipment. A lot of this equipment was never designed to handle the higher quality filtration systems that the CDC has been advocating for since last year. That strain is putting a undue and inevitable strain on equipment that's 20 years or older. As such, we're fortunate that the business office and the buildings have all taken a pretty hard stance since the very beginning of the school year in trimming costs wherever we possibly could. And now we're looking at those items and seeing how we're going to be able to go about replacing them. In the coming days, I'm going to be able to present to Dr. Adams and Mrs. Villarreal to give them an idea of the equipment we're talking about. And while I'd like to be able to say that I can do it all out of my budget, it's going to require some transfers. So in the coming weeks, you'll probably see those presented to the Board of Education. But Know that each of them are designed for health and safety in the largest areas possible, to make sure that we're satisfying the requirements for our students and staff and maintaining the healthiest growth we possibly can. Thank you.
Okay, final slide. So, we're going to ask the board, I know you have some questions, if you, just let me finish this slide, we'll certainly answer any questions that you have. If the board, approves the changes to the reentry plan, we would look to begin phasing in, this in-person instruction on Friday, March 12th. The 4th and 5th grade classes would move back together, except I know there's one building that they were looking at potentially, keeping two different separate classrooms, and so it can be individualized by the need of the building. On Monday, March 15th, we would have the 8th, 9th, and 12th graders in full-time, full person. Everyone else would remain hybrid, everyone else would remain hybrid until their phase-in time. So 6th, 7th, 10th, and 11th grade would continue to be hybrid for the week of Monday, March 15th. And on Monday, March 22nd, we would then have 6th, 7th, 10th, and 11th join the 8th, 9th, and 12th graders in full in person. The reason that we're phasing it in is so that we can tweak anything that needs to be tweaked, whether it's how we offer lunch, how we serve lunch, or study halls and the like. So we just would like a week with certain groups in there, and then we'll bring the other groups in a week later if the board decides to approve the amended reopening plan.
Okay, I'm gonna, ask that, because we all have questions, so I'm gonna ask for the newest member go first. But I also would like everyone, to please listen to the other board members' questions, because a lot of times we repeat the same questions. So listen to the questions, if they're said a different way, we're still gonna get the same answer. And I know we all have questions, but Jackie, I'm gonna have you go first, and then, we'll go around from there.
Thank you, Linda, for answering that already with the 4th and 5th grade. I know there was a situation where if there's a large amount of students and a teacher and the parents feel that it would be better, I thought that was a good idea to do it on a case by case. I wanted to know a couple of different things. I understand we need students to show up and be accountable for their attendance, but we also don't want sick children feel like they are going to fall behind. So what are we doing with the kids that are sick or experiencing some symptoms? Now they're staying home and there's no hybrid or virtual for them to jump on, or is there? Or are we just saying that now if you have to quarantine like I am, are you gonna be a kid that has to now quarantine at home and just use iTutor? Are you not able to now physically watch your teacher? I mean, I understand, that's one. Number two.
So let me just, if we could.
Wait, let them answer that question.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
it is definitely, something that we discussed at length with regards to, allowing virtual students to log in from home, when they're sick. So if a child is quarantined, we will allow them to, log in virtually. But if a student has a general illness, then, we are asking that they just, do the makeup work that they would traditionally do, in our normal setting. The issues we've had is, that attendance has been extremely problematic. While I understand, that we don't want a loss of instructional time, I also have to, balance that with the remaining students that are in the class and the preparation that it takes for a teacher to make sure that the lessons are at the level that they expect. And by having so many variables of kids coming in and out and not knowing who's going to be where when, it makes it very difficult to have any cohesive instruction going on. And we're definitely seeing some negative outgrowths of that. And, we made a decision to tighten it now, and if we need to reevaluate it later on, we definitely will. It's not something that we will not look at if we need
Jack, you have more questions?
Yes, was a letter sent out, Dean, get to the parents to let them know of their right to refuse spring assessments?
That's not, on the reopening plan, Jack, that would be the end topic.
Okay, I'll wait on that one, we'll
Oh,
get that.
we have the same question, I'm a big opt-out parent too.
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure, and I also wanted to know where we're at with those tests, because I know, Dean said last time,
Let's keep the topics on topic though.
I will.
I have that on there though.
All right, perfect.
All right.
Number two, what are we doing now that we're bringing the fourth and fifth graders back together for lunch? Are we just going to be putting them all back together and having lunch the way that the other grade levels are? But the other grade levels have less children, correct?
I can't answer the less children, but I can answer to let you know that they will follow K through 3, and that they'll be eating inside the classroom.
Okay, and are we allowing full virtual students to play sports? We're allowing them just like we were before, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And one last thing, Dean, I know I got an email from you and appreciate you looking into it, but I wanted to know how far are we out with getting these kids while we're putting them back in school? Are we getting them back to being able to do the plays and the arts and for them to be able to get back into musical? It's great that we have sports. I'm excited to get to go watch and see the kids play and happy they're gonna be spectators there. But what are we doing for the kids that aren't in sports and are in all these other arts and musics and all the extracurricular? Are we able to start moving along to get the kids a little more involved there?
Yes, we have a plan for our music and art department at all 3 levels. In addition, we are discussing, we're going to continue to run clubs virtually at this point, and reassess every week to see what the population looks like and survey our students and staff to see how it would work if we were able to do it in person. But as far as, our musical performing groups at our high school, they will return to night period and begin full rehearsals. And the the drama production at the high school has already started. They are looking to do a cabaret style show to be performed virtually. If guidance changes, then we'll able to adapt to that if we need to. And stage crew and set design has been ongoing with that. Drama at the middle school, again, they're in the process of preparing for production for this year. Similar design and setup with the high school.
Thank you, Dean, appreciate it.
I'll
I'll
share. Okay.
after the other thing.
I'll share that document that I sent to you with the rest of the board as well. That updates each of the levels.
Thank you, Dean, I appreciate it.
Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay, go ahead, Lee. Please speak into the microphone, Lee, because we can't hear you.
Okay,
Thank you.
this is from Miller Place recently, and I thought I'd share it because it could potentially happen here. I just want to make sure that I'm sure that the administration is aware, but everyone should be aware. There was 4 students, they tested positive, and then there were 49 students need to be quarantined. Are we prepared for that as well? If it doesn't look good, like a lot of kids are coming down with COVID, and it looks like there's a lot of quarantining going on in that district. It could happen here. It says here another one, 3 positive cases, 18 students quarantined. So these students will then become virtual, correct?
Yes.
So it really is not going to affect the change that you're making, they're just going to be headed out to virtual. Right. There is a potential of a lot of cases, but as long as we're prepared. because I think what we're doing is good. I think you guys did a good job. I know that districts have started this process. Actually, my granddaughter and Kipwood, they've been going back 5 days. It doesn't seem to be a problem. Could be quarantine cases. As long as we have those quarantine cases covered, I think this is a good idea, and I think it's a good idea not to just let kids take the day off and say we're sick and want to just hop on. That's good also. I think you did a great job, thank you.
Okay, Marlene, Mark?
Yes, I have questions.
Go ahead, Marlene.
And, Lee, I just want to piggyback on what you said regard to Miller Place. And to jump back also what you had said in the beginning in September, that in order for this plan to work, we all have to be responsible. And that means responsible inside the classroom and outside the classroom. No big gatherings, none of that, in order for this plan to work. Because I think ideally we all want the same thing. We want our kids and staff to be healthy and to have an enjoyable experience when they enter back into school. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was so we're keeping up the barriers on each of these desks. Are we going to allow children to use sanitizer wipes? Are they going to have wipes available so that if kids feel uncomfortable, they have the ability to take a little bit of that ownership if they feel comfortable and just to wipe down their surface areas?
Mylan, this is John. While I can't publicly say they can, because technically they're not allowed to, I will tell you that there is ample supply in every single instructional space. How they're utilized, we'll leave that to each respective building.
Okay, and the other question I had, I believe it was touched on about if a child is absent. But Dean, can you just go further into why the hybrid is not being offered? I know that has been requested by many parents. I understand why hybrid is not being offered. Okay, could you just elaborate a little bit further on that?
So, the options that we selected was a full in-person instruction or fully virtual. And what we have found over, since September is, that break-in of instructional time. A lot of our students, are definitely not prepared for that style of learning. It has been a big shift for our instructional staff as well as, being able to teach both in a virtual student and an in-person student. So we want to keep the consistency as intact as possible. And that way, both kids and teachers, know what they're looking to expect when they walk into the classroom each day. So that consistency of instruction, the consistency of platform. Now that everybody has devices, we'll continue to use Google Classroom. We'll continue to use all of the technology and software applications that we have implemented, both while students are in person in school. So we're very excited about this opportunity, and our staff has done an amazing job adapting to the different environments. And I think it's time, based on our student performance and based on feedback from teachers, it's important for kids to be in person and in front of the teacher and learning each and every day.
The other question I have is the survey is not due until this Friday, and the transition is supposed to be for Monday. So, do we have enough desks? Do we have enough barriers? Do we have enough shields? Do we have everything in place to be ready for that transition?
So Mylan, the biggest change I think I thought that we would see is parents who are currently in hybrid who wanted to go fully virtual because of some reason in their homes, they were worried about kids being more exposed. And I know that many people have yet to take the survey, but I do want to give you some information that is as of 5 o'clock this afternoon. We had 79 families whose children right now are fully virtual, and they want to move back into in-person full day. We have 26 families whose children are on different platforms depending on their grade level, who also want to move back into full in-person. And at this moment, we only have 16 families who are hybrid, who are looking to move fully virtual. That may change if the board approves this and people say, well, now I have to make a decision. And as we spoke about a few weeks ago, by going and bringing more students into the classroom, there will be families who must safeguard the health of whoever is in their home that might be really in trouble if they were infected. So I think we'll see that number go up. The question that you asked though is, will we be ready? We will be putting the number of desks into each classroom that would be there if everybody was in person, because we don't have that many folks that are moving out of hybrid into fully virtual. At this moment, if we had parents who had their children that were fully virtual and they were moving back into person, we will change that in schools and we will be able to see how many more desks we might be able to take away to spread kids back further out if they remain fully virtual. We did order a few thousand more of the shields. 500 of them have already arrived. We had extras that were not in daily rotation. So that is another reason why we're rolling back in, so that we can make sure that we have all of the safeguards that we need with barriers on every desk for every student when they arrive.
Thank you, Linda. So as far as the Google Classrooms go, I know we were set at a certain platform. So now that we transition back in, will there be modifications to the Google Classroom? I mean, as far as the accessibility and things like that.
So we anticipate just with any shift in learning that there will be some modifications that need to be made, some adjustments for our teachers. But, for our hybrid students who are in person, they were, at times accessing the Google Classroom while during the instructional time in class, in person. So although we anticipate some challenges, I think we're really excited about the opportunity for our students to have devices, to use them both in school and at home, that everybody's on the same platform. We can provide support for them when they're in school if there are any issues or challenges. And this way that whatever the teacher is producing within that Google Classroom, from an equity standpoint, will look the same for all students.
So I'm not sure if you touched on it at the time of this transition, the hope is that every secondary level child will have a device, which they're going to take to and from school for those that are going in-house.
Yes. Right now, we have a small number at OBMS, a small number at RMS. Those devices are already at the buildings as well as the high school. They're in the grade level offices. I'll be sending out a letter to parents tomorrow, letting them know that, and it's only going to those parents who elected not to take a device, letting them know what we're planning to do, letting them know that we're able to offer a device for them. I think a lot of our families chose not to take one because we didn't have enough for everybody, and we were very appreciative of that. But at this point, we're able to provide devices for our 6 through 12 grade students. So we want to make sure that they all have the learning equipment that they need to be successful. And so I'll be sending out a letter to those families. The student just needs to bring in the parent-student Chromebook agreement, and the device is already assigned to the student, and that will take place either at the main office at the middle schools or at the grade level offices at the high school.
Thank you. And my one last question. So with this transition, and anything with change can sometimes produce anxiety. Will there be some type of forms for maybe the parents and for the kids to help along with this transition? Will there be services available for kids? And I think that the greatest piece too, in some cases, is that kids, when Jackie and I attended that mental health, about that invisible backpack, and some kids are able to unload it and some are not. Is there a way that we can help those children that have some difficulty unloading that invisible backpack, to maybe, help them feel like, I don't know, that, you know, I can't.
I totally agree, and I think,
But you want them to know that it's there. Is there any way that we can maybe do some kind of forum to kind of invite those children, make them feel more comfortable coming forward?
so I know that at the high school, Mr. Brand has already met with his mental health staff, his psychologists and social workers to start planning on the transition for students to come back. I think one of the benefits of having everybody in person is the opportunity to be able to identify students who may be having some challenges in person. And I know that, you know, our staff has done a great job over the years being able to identify students who need support. So we're going to continue to do those things, but I think, you know, we're going to look for any additional opportunities to give children the opportunity to reach out for support, as well as us reaching out to them. So, you know, we'll take any suggestions, and we'll make sure that the buildings have everything that they need to be successful.
Okay, well, on that note, I just want to thank everybody for their diligence, on this. I know it's a massive undertaking. I just want to thank the staff and our children. I know this is not easy, but it's a transition. One of the things, again, that was brought about in that mental health forum is that kids coming back full time, they see this as a sign of hope that things are going to get better for the future. So I just want to thank everybody for putting in their, you know, rolling up their sleeves and making this happen for our kids.
Okay, Mark, you have any questions?
No, I just want to say something. I just want to make sure I get this correct. I'm not really, I'm following whatever administration is leading us to do, so I'm following your suggestions. The most important thing for me is that the parents still have a choice, the students with their parents, whether they come in and do the virtual or they whatever choice they choose. And the teachers, I'm concerned for the teachers too, if they have a condition or something, their health issues, and do they have the option also, if they were staying at home teaching virtually or something and they're not comfortable because of a health issue or whatever, they might have an underlying condition, are they still okay? I mean, I'm concerned about everybody, but I mean, I need to ask these questions. I am following your lead. Another thing that I'm a little concerned about is, why do we need to approve this? Whether I agree with what you did at the beginning of the year or disagree, I followed your lead. So now it seems like Linda just made a comment that we're voting on this. I thought we would actually just vote against it if we didn't want to follow your lead. So I'm a little confused about that. So if you can answer those questions, that'd be great. I just want to make sure that teachers are okay, students have choices, still the parents, and why are we voting? Because I thought we followed your lead, and if we didn't like it, or somebody was so against something, they could say something.
So Mark, I will answer the question about the teachers. The teachers always have the right to ask for an accommodation based on any medical need that they may have. So if they submit a request stating that they are uncomfortable or they have anxieties or whatever the case may be about everybody coming back in the manner in which we're proposing, then they can submit requests to the district, either Gail Santos' office or my office, and just simply ask for an accommodation, and we'll see whatever we can do. We will make sure we accommodate all individuals who make a request.
Okay. The second part?
So the second part, Mark, the parents get to choose whether their child wants to be in person daily or if they want to be virtually instructed. So they would be instructed through their platforms that we were using at home. We did eliminate the hybrid option. And the reason that the board needs to vote on this is it's the reopening plan. And the reopening plan was adopted by the board in August of 2020. And since this is an update to the reopening plan, the board needs to adopt this in order for us to move forward with this.
So did we approve the opening plan at the beginning of the year? I'm just curious.
Yes, you adopted it in August.
So there was a vote on this, in other words, how we open up school every other day and the whole, there was no, that was the option given to us and we voted on that?
Correct.
I just wanted to look for that.
No, see, I don't remember that because I thought, Paul,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I don't remember us voting on, because if that was the case, if one of our two of us wanted the doors of the school to be open, we couldn't have made that, we couldn't have done that, even with we were told that even with a consensus.
No, yeah, this
Yeah,
is no wheelhouse, I thought. You know, nothing, I don't, you know, we don't do the day-to-day, we've been told that constantly, we actually get yelled at if we try to do the day-to-day, or if we bring up a suggestion from a parent, we're told that it's your wheelhouse and we don't do the day-to-day. So, I'm a little concerned that this is some sort of, I don't know what this is, I don't know why I have to go to this. I'm not feeling comfortable making parents or teachers do anything that I wouldn't do, so, anyway. Bob, is that the end of your questions? I'm not gonna comment, I'm just gonna,
No, I just wanted to understand
yeah.
if we voted on it. I don't remember voting on, I'm gonna follow when
I don't remember voting on the opening plan, I remember giving a presentation and then it was done.
That's all, yeah, that's what I didn't know that. I'm fine with following the lead, I'm okay with her suggestions and everything, there are options, which is a concern of mine, and there are things for the teachers, which was a concern. So everything was answered, but I don't remember voting like we are this time, that's why I'm.
No, it is, yes, cool. All right, do you have any more questions, Mark?
No, I'm fine, I think mine asked enough and everybody asked that.
I have a couple of my own. So, my first thing, again, I'll make the same comment with Mark, I don't remember voting on this, I remember hearing a discussion about it, and you know, this is your wheelhouse, you do the day-to-day. So, I'm happy that, you know, we're giving the parents a choice. I have some concerns. What about all the virtual teachers that and the hybrid teachers actually that we hired? What's gonna happen to them? Or I mean, TAs we hired, what's gonna happen to all those people now that are no longer have to be in a virtual classroom because, you know, that we kind of eliminated some of those or vice versa?
So I don't believe we're going to be eliminating any fully virtual classrooms. So all those folks would still remain in their virtual environment through the end of the school year. We didn't hire anybody for hybrid. Hybrid is our teachers who teach in the classroom day to day with the children, and they stream live their lessons. So that will continue as well. The one issue. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's gonna continue?
Yes.
The live streaming?
For the fully virtual students at the middle and the high school, correct?
Do we talk to the unions? I mean, we've had a lot of emails. There's a lot of concerns about going fully back, and there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of parents that want to, a lot of parents that don't. There's a lot of teachers that want to, a lot of teachers that don't. It's different. You know, it's pretty well split. I don't feel comfortable making any decision for any of them. So we do have plans in place for anybody that wants to not be able to do this. Because I saw that there's some deadlines that you guys have. You know, you're talking about kids. Let's talk about the kids first. Forget about the staff for a second. Let's talk about the kids first. You tell them they can only switch when you do it here. But they're really hurting and they really need to switch back into whichever side they're going to. Why would we say no?
I don't think we would ever say no, and I think, you know, at the
I
elementary.
understand your deadlines and scheduling and all that. But if there has to be exceptions to the rule if kids are having issues. And the same with teachers and other staff.
Right,
If they-
I don't think we would ever,
bring back all these kids,
I don't think we would ever deny someone, access to an environment that they felt was better for them.
Okay, so that brings me to the second one. You know, say 75% of the kids go back in. And now you have teachers that were, and staff that were, they're getting used to the lower rate of students in there. And, you know, we haven't had any spreads like craziness. But now you're putting 35% back in, all the teachers back in, and we have an incident, like Lee said this in the beginning. Do we have a plan for quarantining the whole class? And what do we do if God forbid something bad really happens?
Go virtual.
Kid brings it home to grandma and grandpa. Do we know what we're doing there?
Well, hopefully those kids go virtual.
Lee, I'm asking Dean and Linda, please, thank you.
So, as far as the quarantine students, in the secondary level, that instruction would continue as it does today, where if the student is quarantined, they will be able to log on virtually. If a teacher is quarantined, they are able to log on virtually and teach their class virtually as they have been doing since September. As far as I think we've done a great job managing the different infection rates within the buildings, and I anticipate that we continue to do that and continue to do our due diligence with our cleaning protocols and the responsibility of our school community, both inside and outside of the classroom.
Okay, so when it comes to these day-to-day decisions and parents have concerns and they bring it to the board, we're going to forward them to you, like we've been told to do, because it's in your wheelhouse, not ours. I mean, the concerns are valid concerns. We've got several from the union, that are valid concerns. We have several from many parents with valid concerns. I just want to make sure that we all know that it's not going to, the Board of Ed is not making those decisions for those parents. You guys have to do that. I can't do that.
Okay, we approved it on August 25th. The plan.
Eileen, when you're done, I heard one more.
The plan that we had approved, we
I'm not, Lee,
we approved it.
Linda, it's my turn now. I asked you first to speak and you did. Can I please finish my questions? Thank you. So I want to make sure that these questions are going to be answered, or the concerns of the parents are going to be answered, because they are valid concerns.
So as with any questions that have come up throughout the school year or any other school year, we do our best to respond to our parents and to respond to the staff questions and concerns.
Thank you, Dean, I appreciate that. You did say that they could log on to quarantine, so I'm happy about that. What if they still don't want a device though? Say, they have a great computer at home and it's way better than our Googles. Are we forcing the kids to use the Googles, or are they allowed to use their own devices? If it's a better model than what we have, what we provide?
We are requiring our students to use a Chromebook, and which is issued.
Okay. So they have to use the Chromebook no matter what, even if they're more comfortable with their own device, and it actually does more?
Yes, we're gonna require that our students use a district issued device. It allows us to be able to make sure that the experience is the same for all students, as well as the ability for us to provide support for them, whether it be logging into the network or any other issues that they have with the device. We can provide that support during the school day. If it's an outside device, we cannot provide support for that. In addition, all of the software applications that we use, that our teachers have been using, are vetted through using a Chromebook as the device of choice. So when they make those educational decisions on software and applications, it's done with the intent of being used on a Chromebook.
Yeah, how do we, okay, that's you guys. The last question I had, you talked about buying all these new shields, having the extra shields, that's great. Are there any, like a non-scratch shield? It seems like we're gonna be replacing these. How much is it per shield? I think they're a great thing. I like having them at the Board of Ed meetings, they're awesome. But, if we have to keep replacing them, how expensive is it to replace them? And is there a better option that maybe a little more expensive to lay out, but will last us longer?
The shields we just purchased are $16 per shield. To my knowledge, there's only a couple of companies making the shields right now, and there are some that are so flimsy. It's like a loose leaf insert. What's the point of that? There's others that are like a shower curtain. What's the point of that? There's really none that are scratch proof. But obviously, every single getting at this point, we're reaching out to many vendors to see if there's anything new on the market, because this is all new to every single school.
All right, good. And again, we got a few emails in there. Linda, did you make, a FYI with like these emails? I mean, there's some that we got in the last few days that have some, oh yeah, no, I see this email, but maybe if we need an FYI.
I did an FAQ document that was sent to every household.
Awesome, thank you, Linda, I appreciate that. That's all I have on the virtual reopening.
I have one more question.
All right, Jackie, you have one more, go ahead.
Just a quick one. I'm just trying to find out, what are we doing with classrooms where we had students who, because they were in the 4th and 5th grade, they weren't supposed to be put together. We have the kids who, parents wrote letters, or there were teachers or educators who felt these 2 or 3 kids shouldn't be together, for whatever the reasons are. And now we're gonna merge the classes. While I am for merging them, I'm just trying to find out, what are we gonna do with a situation like this? And are you guys ahead of it? Are we already talking to the teachers, talking to the principals, and making sure that they know, who the players are and what the situation is, so that we don't have any situation where a child feels more anxious, more uncomfortable, or we have some sort of issue between 2 or 3 kids?
Jackie, I think Dean answered that question earlier at Cherokee. There were some issues and they
Lee, let Dean answer it, please.
No, Lee, I know what you're talking about. That's about a talk.
Okay, but you wait,
That's
please, let
about
Dean answer Jackie's question.
Right, that's about a class though, that before classes, where in the future you want to try to give people the option if there's special education attached to it. But I'm talking about, just in general, this goes for, of course, the blanket of the district. If there's, I'm sure it's not just gonna be one classroom. I'm sure there are situations where a kid or parent wrote a letter and said, hey, I don't want my kid with this kid, for whatever reason. It could just be that the 2 kids just don't mesh.
Yeah,
What are you doing?
And that's something that the building principals are very cognizant about. It's conversations we have had about student placement and requests. Each of the buildings is managing that currently as they look to, combine the 4th and 5th grade classes. I have had conversations with all of the building principals. We've met as a group. Those concerns definitely did come up. So, in the initial planning, it did provide principals an opportunity to separate students differently because of the number of sections. But those are all taken into account. Conversations are happening with our staff, and conversations are happening with parents as well with regards to any placement concerns. So it is something that we are proactively working on, and hopefully we'll have resolved by the time that we transition all students back together.
I just have one last question, because we were talking about I was talking about the technology. I know a few years ago, when the one-on-one devices were happening across the other districts, there was an option for parents to buy insurance, so that the screen is cracked, or they have into the computer that, not a software insurance. Is there an offer?
So we did look into insurance, and the estimate we received was, well in excess of $200,000 per year. So, based on the type of device that we're using and the replacement, the actual unit cost, we didn't feel that it was in the district's best interest to take out that insurance. We can't ask parents to take out insurance. We can't offer insurance and then have parents pay us for it. We would have to have some sort of third-party vendor come in and be vetted and then offer insurance to our parents outside of us.
So if the screen is cracked, is something, whose responsibility is it?
So it depends on what the situation is. In our user agreement, there are fees assigned to different repairs. And we always take into account what happened, the situation, the family situation, and we've worked with our parents to make sure that the student has the device that they need. And if it does break, and there's a financial need, the district will, we have plans for those.
Thank you.
I just need to ask one more question also. How much did you said we paid for, the back, the screen, the protectors? I heard
16,
15?
1/6.
Was this approved? Was it approved, or is this something we just did? Was it approved by the board? I'm just curious. Because I know we had a big discussion last week about a certain amount, and I just want to make sure we're following protocol, because it seems like we do what we want when we want, and I'm just checking up. Bridget, was it approved?
I'm looking. Well, I can't remember if it was the last meeting or not.
It was actually off the bid. So these were on contracts. Our purchasing agent, Joanne Sharrett, did a wonderful job getting multiple samples. Some were up to $50 a piece, and she found a very good version, off of a contract with BOCES.
So was it approved though, and we have to get that approved?
No, because it's off a contract, it's only when things are going that are not off a contract or they're off an RFP, that they need to be approved by the board.
That's not true. Isn't there a certain amount that we have to go up to?
Not when it's on a contract.
But that item has to be on the contract.
Correct.
Right, so the contract gets approved.
It's a contractual service, a purchasing service. We have a contractually purchasing service through many different organizations. If those items appear on those contractually purchasing services, we can purchase from them because they are already proven to be the lowest cost to the district.
So sometimes when we approve contracts, wait a second, Mark. So sometimes when we approve contracts, we're not approving the actual contracts for that moment, we're putting in case they items on there in the future that we want to buy.
Correct.
Okay.
We could just keep ordering something.
Yep.
And just keep ordering, and it doesn't have to get approved, in other words. So
Right,
we need,
because it's on contract.
so that's everything?
Yeah, and that's why I asked about that last week, Mark.
But I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, yep.
Linda, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
That's correct.
All right, what is the,
I think there has to be something changed about that. I think we can't approve spending item and just have an open item, open end, and we keep spending money. What happens if it's an item that we really don't need? And I'm not saying we don't need this right now, these yields, but in the future, there's something we're buying, and we just keep overbuying it, and then we get stuck, and it's stuck in the warehouse, and we have, I've spoken to John Allen about things, we have plenty of stuff in there that we've had for years. So, what do we, when do we stop ordering, or when do we order? That's just a question, there's no boundaries, in other words, is that what you're saying to me?
yeah, well, we approve contract, they can order, yes.
Okay, I guess that's the way it is, should we change that?
Well, we don't have to look into it, yes, no, definitely have to look into that.
Okay.
All right, are there any more questions on the reopening plan?
So just quickly, while you were talking about approval of the reopening plan, I look back at our advice on that. Way back, I want to say in August or September, when there was a requirement for the reopening plan to be created by the district, we did give an opinion that it should be approved by the Board of Education because it addresses curriculum and general operation of the schools. So I know there was a question of whether you should.
Yeah, because general, you tell us all the time, Lisa, that we, like say today, that's Linda's wheelhouse, it's in our contract even. And
Right.
now when I remember when we did that, it was something that came down from the state saying that the school district had to have a reopening plan.
Yes.
But now, so we already reopened. So now this is not really a reopening plan, it's a re-reopening. So
Right.
this is how we do. This is not a state mandate though, this is not something that the governor now said, you have to have a reopening plan, you're gonna change.
No, so our advice and the resolution that was approved did give the administration the authority to make some changes to the reopening plan.
So we don't have to vote on this.
But if the changes are substantial, and here I'm not sure how substantial the changes
Well,
are.
it seems like they're just getting rid of the hybrid, that's what it looks like. So I don't think that it's something that the board has to vote on, because it's not really that substantial. It's the same thing we already voted on, with little tweaks here and there.
That would give her the authority to do the tweaks. So that's the only change, no hybrid as opposed to.
It looks like virtual and in person, which is gonna stay, and then we go to the hybrid, which we don't have anymore. And then, the other things, they have little rules and, with the, one-on-one devices, which we were doing anyway, we already said that at the beginning, so, to me, this is just tweaks to a plan that we've already approved, and that's Lynn's wheelhouse, not mine. It kind of makes me take a side about the parents that don't wanna go, and take a side for the parents that do wanna go. Kind of puts the board in the middle of teachers that wanna be in school, and teachers that don't wanna be in school. And you know what, that's really not something that I'm comfortable choosing for anybody. So, I don't know what my other board members can do, but I'm not voting on this. That's not my wheelhouse, that speaks to a reopening plan, and then I'm not voting on it. I think every parent has their choices, and every teacher has their choices, every staff member has their choice, and I'd be damned if I'm gonna tell somebody that I gotta put them in harm's way or not in harm's way, like, I can't do that. So, I don't think you should vote, and you're saying no too, Lisa, so.
No, I'm not saying no.
No, you were saying that it looks like tweaks, that's what you said.
It said, I'm not sure if it's tweaks, but, it's hard for me to make a, educational judgment about the significance of the change.
Okay.
No longer having hybrid seems somewhat significant, so I would likely recommend that it's approved by the board.
Okay.
How you're changing, kind of how you're, essentially how the curriculum is being delivered in that sense.
So
So,
Lisa, what are the districts doing with their reopening plan? Are they voting on it? Your other,
repeat that, I'm sorry.
What are other districts doing? Are they re-voting, or are they just going ahead with their plan?
We can't be the first one doing this, we're
The districts that I have dealt with it's being brought before the board and they are voting on changes to the reopening plan. Not smaller changes, but something like having hybrid versus not having hybrid seems significant. I'm not, like I said, I'm not yet. But the other districts that I'm dealing with are voting on substance.
Okay. All right, well, right now this is just a discussion items anyway, so I don't know what's gonna go on
Do
after
we have
this.
to vote on this now?
It's actually a discussion and an action item.
So you want to add it to an action item? You want the board to add?
It's already an action item. If you take a look at how it's posted in the new
I haven't
business.
figured it out. I gotta go on there, yeah. All right, so then, so
It's
you want us to vote on this now?
posted as a recommended action.
Okay, so, then I need a motion and a second to, for the re-entry plan proposal.
Motion.
motion,
Second.
I need it all in favor, or you wanna vote?
Aye.
Aye. I'm gonna abstain.
I'm okay with it. I'm concerned about the other thing, I just want to make sure.
You know what, I'm not concerned about the plan so much as I don't feel comfortable telling someone what they need to do or what they can't do when it comes to this kind of safety issue. I just can't do it. It's a choice that one has to make.
Everybody's entitled to it.
All right, so next is.
Oh, that's real quick. I didn't hear Mark what your vote was.
What's that?
Mark said yes.
I didn't hear Mark's vote.
I said yes, I'm a yes.
Okay,
I said
thank you.
everybody's, I'm following the lead, let's go, we got 4 yeses. Let's go.
Okay, so let's go. The budget 2021 presentation, 21-22 presentation. Linda, while we're waiting for Bridget, where are the transfers? For the next discussion.
This was, actually, Mr. Allen spoke about it when he spoke during the reopening plan. This was to propose transfers in order to upgrade some of the facilities.
So we don't have a list of what you want to transfer?
No, we're going to put in front of you the transfers. Once you say we should move forward with pricing out what those facility upgrades are.
So there's another action item today?
It is not another action item. It's really just an authority for Mr. Allen to go and price out the
No, it's a
upgrades that he spoke about.
If that's a consensus, that's a vote.
Yes, well, I guess it was really just presented to you in public rather than do it in an FYI.
All right. Okay. So, Bridget, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for staying here at 9:43. I appreciate it. So the next slide, you've seen before. This is a slide from January after the governor's executive budget proposal. So it returns to us today to provide an update on the 1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. So while the additional stimulus is double the amount that was used as the baseline in the executive budget, as a reminder, Homo based the executive budget on $6 billion in additional stimulus. School districts don't know yet how the bill will impact the state's budget process, and the budget has to be enacted by the governor and the legislature by April 1st. The next slide is an update to the state aid proposal. So the state's February 12th database update provided changes to building aid with an increase in aid of $226,244. While it's not much, it's certainly an increase, and we'll take what we can get. This reduced the reduction from negative 2.09 or negative 1.361 million to negative 1.74 or negative 1.135. So depending on that additional stimulus and what it means to school districts throughout New York, it seems more promising that we could receive more in state aid than we originally thought. The 20% reduction in state aid for school districts throughout New York has loomed over our heads for an entire year now. I think with how many times I've said it, I think you could have probably purchased a lot of tickets and maybe flown somewhere nice after the pandemic. So the next slide is an update to the tax levy limit calculation. The revision changes are with building aid, and since the state aid database update with the 226,000 and the revised debt service schedule to reflect the energy performance contract and capital project borrowing, the revised and final tax levy limit is 2.9% for $133,426,171. So tonight I asked the board to provide thoughts or approval for the tax levy limit or a number that would be more comfortable so that the expenditure budget can be finalized prior to the March 23rd meeting. As you know, we have March 23rd, we have April 13th, and then we have the budget adoption on April 20th. The next slide is the draft revenue budget. So with the increase in state aid, the revised and final tax levy limit, and increased the unemployment, ERS, and employee benefit reserves, which historically Connectclub has utilized a part of the reserves to offset the burden to the tax levy while preparing the coming year's budget as an additional revenue source based on budgetary appropriations. As we saw in the first slide, the revenue budget is subject to change pending the legislative budget. And as you're used to hearing for an entire year now, things change almost daily. The next slide moves to the expenditure budget. So the budget development process is extensive. It requires input of all administrators, departments, and buildings. Buildings and departments are sent budget sheets, and they complete the Excel file for submission in January. The budget development process is really looking into 3 years. The year you're currently in, the year you're coming from and the year that you're going to. You're considering program enhancements, innovative practices, and district-wide goals and objectives. You're looking at enrollment numbers. You're looking at revenue projections. You're looking at state and federal aid information. You're mindful of capital plans with multi-year plans at that. You're looking at multi-year strategic plans, cash flow, debt service requirements, and many other aspects. The next slide is the proposed expenditure budgets for secondary schools. So all departments and buildings were asked to complete their budget sheets in a manner that reflects need based on actual quotes from vendors, etc. In addition, since we do have a state aid decrease, all buildings and departments were tasked with determining what they truly needed to run their buildings and programs. So should Connectclub see an increase to state aid with the governor's legislative budget, there are certainly areas watermarked for replenishment based on need and quotes to substantiate. The proposed budget for the high school, less staffing, totals $500,614. The budget for OBMS, less staffing, totals $59,464. And the budget for RMS, less staffing, is $71,352. The next slide is proposed expenditure budgets for the elementary schools, all without staffing. Bosque totals $26,540, Cherokee $44,749, Duffield's $26,699, Idle Hours $17,600, John Pearl $19,698, Slocum $22,404, and Sycamore $34,650. The next and final slide is the budget calendar slide. So the board will receive a line-by-line budget in its entirety with staffing, the first draft of it prior to the March 23rd meeting. The line-by-line will be posted to the district's website for March 23rd, and questions from the Board of Education with answers will be posted to board docs. The line-by-line will be reviewed at both the March 23rd and April 13th Board of Ed meetings in preparation for budget adoption on April 20th. And that's it. Thank you again for being here.
So your question is, what do you want our budget to look like with the increase? What kind of increase do we want? Is that what you're saying?
For this tax levy limit.
Mylene, Lee, you're the veterans on the board. Do you have any opinion?
No, I'll let you speak to this one.
What's that?
I'll let you speak to this.
I'm not gonna change my opinion from last year, the year before, the year before. Mylene?
I sent Bridget some questions. I figure at our next meeting, when we get a little bit more in depth with this conversation, I did request that we get the budget in the same format that we've always received it in, to also include the percentage increases per line item. I did notice that each of the buildings, elementary buildings in particular, with the middle schools, that their budgets were significantly lower than their actual expenditures. Bridget did explain that until we get more information with the state aid department and how much we're receiving, everybody's sort of buckling back a little bit just to see what that number is going to be. My concern right now is that there are many families in our community that have lost employment or just struggling right now. And I certainly do not want to see any big tax impacts in our community, especially now. But I also don't want to see our children have any programs taken away either. So I trust that our staff, our administration will do the best they can, tightening up and not impacting any programs, but also to keep the levy as low as possible as a consideration for our parents who are struggling now.
And I just know one thing, I have a question. I was looking quickly at the numbers for the elementary school. Do they go per student? It doesn't look like they go per student. They go per need.
When they create
Their budget, so it seems a little balanced.
Yes.
to me.
So
They're not going per student. I can tell by what I just saw.
correct. They're going based on plans that they have in outside their buildings? Are they looking to replace cafeteria tables? Are they looking to replace student desks? Are they looking to replace textbooks? And all those things really impact ultimately what they provide to the board to adopt to the budget and to the community.
Are you gonna look at this a little closer if you want to keep our new council?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, I appreciate it.
So wait, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
So Bridget, we heard the ordinance today, we've been over 4%. We already knew that we've been over it for years, 15, and we've gone down. What was the actual number last year?
11.
11. So that's 7% right there. If we tighten that up and bring it down, we really don't need to raise our taxes, our taxes that high, because we still have $11 million, 11% over. So I'd like to keep that down as low as possible. Like 0 would be great for me. Okay, that's all I have. The next discussion is the proposed transfers.
Can I go back to one thing from, the schools? It's quick.
Right?
Now that we're going back full time, we're gonna face a lot of problems, and we have special ed population, regular population. And we took away, it's not a wrap room anymore, but we took that away for the rest of the year. I'm really thinking that that's not a very good idea, considering that we're gonna go back and face a lot of issues.
All right, well, that'll be something that you'd have to bring up, you'd have to walk it on as a resolution and get a vote on.
I'll bring it up after when we have that little, part. 'Cause
We can bring it up now if you want to, but we'd have to vote on it.
Okay, I think that it's important that we can't leave these children hanging and sitting in a room by themselves, being disciplined when there are real issues going on. So I'm asking the board to bring back the rap room for the rest of this year. It really is not costing money unless children go in it. I mean, we hired a guidance counselor, but she's doing many other things besides the rap room. So I'm really concerned about the population going back and all the kids there and all the problems we're gonna be facing. So I'm asking the board to consider bringing back the rap room for the rest of the year.
Lisa, you'd have to put that in the correct wording?
Can you also ask, for some reason there's an echo and it doesn't sound, you hardly hear her and understand her. Everybody else.
Maybe after I take my mask off.
But I didn't hear you, Lee. You want to make a motion to board to reestablish the rap room at the high school.
Right, I don't know what they call it now, but it's basically the same thing. So you can give it whatever name you want, but I think we should be worrying about these children for the rest of the year. I think it's very serious. Not a good time. I didn't know that this was gonna happen, that would be full time, but I think that we're making a big mistake by not reinstating it.
It's called the Personal Growth and Reflection Room, the PGR room. That's what it's called. That's what it was called before we abolished it last board meeting.
Linda, can you just let the public know what the amount of children it has helped this year? Just a
So
roundabout number. Has it helped a dozen kids? Has it helped a dozen kids?
Well, no, there has not been more than, I think it was 7 or 9 children who've been put in that room for whatever disciplinary reason that they had this year so far.
Okay, I just wanted to get that refreshed.
All right,
I understand what you're saying, Jackie, but they're bringing back all the students.
That's gonna go on the Board of Education's office. That actually.
Lee, I'm all for.
Jackie,
Wait, I just want to say something.
Wait, no, we're gonna bring it up in number 6, like I stopped you before on the opt-out. I'm gonna stop putting down on this one. That's for number 6. Right now, we're on number 4, proposed transfer for COVID facility upgrades. Please get the wording from Lisa. We're gonna move on. That'll be on number 6. Don't forget, we still have another executive board to go into. Okay, so proposed transfers for COVID.
So, Mr. Allen already spoke to this, but I'm just gonna ask him to come up to the mic again one more time and just, speak to the board about what we would like to do.
So what I was stating earlier was, we've pretty much abused the mechanical equipment throughout the district. There's quite a bit of it that's struggling. We've pushed the end of life much closer than it would have been otherwise. I would like to be able to reach out to the heating ventilation contractor that the district uses to have them come in, give us a third-person assessment of everything so that we can see exactly what we're up against. Also, at the same time, changing the equipment, which is over 20 years of age, that only allows us to filter to a certain level and increase that to the highest available filtration at this point. So it is a tremendous amount of work. It's going to be a tremendous amount of time for multiple people. So before I start going through all those efforts and trying to juggle everything else that's going on, I want to know that, in the coming weeks, if we put a budget to transfer, amongst budgets, that it's something that the board is going to be willing to entertain, at least depending upon the explanation that comes with each of those transfers.
Me personally, I have to take it as it comes. I can't just give you a blanket authority to go do that. We have to take it as it comes, and we have to see where the money is at that moment. I understand what you're saying. Some of these things need to be done. We have budgets for the things that have to get done. I mean, that's why we do a whole budget process. So to just say, okay, I ran out of money before, we have emergency funding open for stuff that breaks. Like, you're asking me to just say, okay, go do what I can't do that, John.
No, I'm asking for exactly the response you just gave, which is you're willing to assess it on a case-by-case basis as it's presented to you. That is more than enough for me to justify.
That's what I would do. I don't know what the other ones would do.
Totally
I
fine.
can't just, yeah.
So does anybody else have
Board
anything?
members want to jump in, please? I believe.
If that's the way you want to do it, one by one, that's fine with me.
It'll probably be a large collective document that shares exactly the equipment I'm talking about, the age of the equipment, all the other stuff. So it probably will be a little bit more comprehensive, so I can prioritize it all in one fell swoop, as opposed to doing it piecemeal, so you'll have a much more comprehensive
That makes sense.
list.
Eileen, another,
Eileen?
I think in the next 2 weeks, the administration staff they're gonna need things in order for this plan to go forward. Unless the board wants to have an emergency meeting every time that they need something, a PO approved, I mean, I don't have a problem if they're ordering the desks, the shields, the wipes. If it's, I expect that is gonna be significant because you're gonna
I
have
don't think
more
that's what
people.
he's talking about. I don't think he's talking about PPE equipment.
No,
He's talking
no.
about repairs, which is different. Those are more substantial bids that we really need to look at each time.
When are you gonna present them? So
You're 100% correct, Eileen, and it would be showing up as a budget transfer that the board would have to approve, so
Right,
it does stand alone to everything else.
okay.
Eileen, we also, as John explained before, we curbed spending without knowing what was going to happen with the state aid reduction,
Yeah.
with that 20% looming over our heads.
Okay. My Mark and Jackie, do you have any questions or problems with that?
I'm good.
Okay. Not at all. All right.
Thank you
Next
very much.
discussion is the section 11 spectators. Section 11 spectators.
Yes, so, Mr. Malor, our district athletic director, is here to speak briefly about some of the updated changes. So, Mr. Malor, go for it.
Good evening. So as we know now, or everybody seems to know, Section 11 is allowing home and away spectators for outdoor events only, and they are allowing home spectators for indoor contests. And then certainly a district can always be more restricted. So there are some districts who are not allowing away spectators for outside contests. And that's where we're at as far as the rules and regulations. It's always, according to Governor Cuomo, Department of Health, which we of course have to follow, it is 2 spectators per athlete. So we put a plan together. Don Flynn, Adam Levied, done did a great job sitting down with me, helping me out. We put a plan that's been utilized the last 2 days at the high school. It's worked well. We had a couple little bumps that we were able to figure out quite quickly. And people are ecstatic that they're able to come and watch their kids play. And we need to know a little bit more about the plan. I can give you some specifics, or it's important for the community to know, and I did send out a school messenger, and everything is on the website, that when they come to the high school, they need to park, and will be directed to park, and you should know to park in the north parking lot. We have 3 entry points that are designated, marked, so they know where to go. We have our chaperones who've done a great job. And we will screen the indoor spectator. We're doing temperature checks, and they are bringing attestation for us.
Sounds good to me. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Lord? No one?
Is he gonna be at our next board meeting? If not, there was a question I had regarding the athletic,
Testing?
expenses or wish list, so to speak.
Yeah, I will have, we'll have a breakdown for you, and I will be able to provide that for you in the next couple of days. And if we do need him to come back to explain any of those things, he definitely will be available.
Also, I'd just like to mention that there was a lot of talk about the testing. Last time I was here, I said we would get it done, and with the help of everyone, everyone's support, our custodial team, our tech team, and our outsourcing company that is doing the testing. Up to today, we've done over 780 tests for our high-risk sport athletes. Parents have been really happy with how easy it is. We provide a
Are
link.
we testing parents as well, Mr. Lord?
No, we're not testing parents.
Just kids? Just the kids?
Just the kids, yep.
Okay.
Just following the rules that Mr. Balone and the Suffolk County Department of Health put out. So testing the student athlete for high-risk sports only. And like I said, we have put out 780 tests in 6 weeks. And it's gone very well and very smooth. And again, thanks to all the people that helped out. John Allen's custodial team's been phenomenal. And on a positive note, the kids are out there, they're playing, they're happy. We had an extremely successful winter season. Wrestling went undefeated, league champs again. Boys track, league champs, girls track that is. And all the teams were very competitive. Swimming, once again, they were league runner-up, and they had a relay county champion. So the kids are doing great. Have to thank the coaches for all their hard work and dealing with all the protocols and paperwork, and yet also being competitive. So it's been great so far. It's good work. It's busy, challenging, but we're very, very happy, and the kids are happy most importantly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, the last topic before we go into executive, we don't have anything to vote on from executive to come back out, right? So just the executive is on?
No, we might vote.
All right, please, okay, so we'll have another public session, apparently. All right, the Board of Education topics, I'm gonna bring up the do no harm policy. With the region scores, I'll let Jack do the opt-out. Everybody already knows I'm an opt-out parent, and I fight hard for that. But I want to bring up the do no harm. We've been fighting for years to get a real do no harm policy in here. I'd like to, what is the plan this year for region scores into a child's average in high school?
So I had sent you on March 5th a detailed plan of the regents and final exams. It's not a plan, but an update. Our high school.
I must have missed that because I got about 17,000, actually 533.
I will reset it in the morning. So we are currently working with our instructional staff to go through each of the different assessments, both finals and regents. At this time, we have very little guidance with regards to, the region's
No, I'm talking
exams.
about our school policy. I'm not talking about what the state says about the regions. I'm talking about how if our kids have to take the regions, we have it as a percentage of their grade.
Yes,
I would like to get rid of that, the do no harm policy. I'd like to institute a do no harm policy, especially this year.
so the thing I'm just gonna request the board is that we wait until the Board of Regents, acts,
Okay.
which should be within the next couple of weeks. But, you know, we are in conversations with our staff about the grading practices and policies that we have.
Especially for the regions and the percentage of their grade. For our seniors, it's gonna kill them this year. For our juniors, and we just really need to help our kids out more.
We totally understand. So,
All right, thank you, Dean, thank you for doing that, and then, when will we bring that up again?
I will have an update as soon as the, Board of Regents makes a recommendation.
That's mid-March, they meeting, correct?
Yes. As far
All right,
as,
Chuck, do you wanna talk about the opt-out, or you want me to bring that up when we do the wrap room?
I'll talk about opt-outs quick.
Oh, okay, good, thank you, Dean.
So, again, we were waiting for some updates from the federal government, which we did receive, as well as from the states. There is waivers that are still out there that the state did submit. So I have a letter drafted, the principals looked at it, I think late last week and approved it. That'll be going out to parents to explain the assessments and explain, the test refusal process that we use here at Connectclub. We should.
Okay, and you write in that letter that parents know that they have to write those tests?
Yes, you've seen a letter before, and, you know, we're definitely very concerned this year. Obviously, the loss of instructional time, the
Right,
fact
it's gonna
that,
hurt, yeah.
the fact that students cannot take the assessments if they are fully virtual, and, you know, just the, amount of time that it would be to implement
Dean, am
the
I switching
assessments.
you over to an opt-out?
I am not,
Can't do that?
I am not saying anything, I'm just
I
saying that,
can't say that
there are a
loud.
lot of challenges that
But you're
that
making me
these,
smile right now, so I'll just go there.
that's once, I'll count that.
That's one, yes, 3 years. No, stop that, please. All right, so you'll have that letter out to the parents as well?
Yes, within the next couple of days.
All right, Lee, before we go in there and we talk about other things and then come back out and do your thing, we're gonna discuss the wrap room now to see if it's even, we even have the support for that. So you want it back in because you think it will help the kids, we heard your whole speech. Jackie has something else to say about that.
Me and Mylin did the mental health, and that was a wonderful presentation. I think we were both moved at what an amazing presentation it was. Linda was on there with us too. It actually hit home in many ways, and I can't imagine, even for that anyone would wanna not use that in today's day to help the kids as they go back. It's something that can be put into place. As a matter of fact, I emailed the board and I believe some of the admin in regards to our wish list. That was what I wanted on there, something for mental health. I think with what went on with this pandemic, you're seeing more kids falling behind, more families who are struggling, whether it be financially, at the brink of mental health issues. Listen, I'm quarantining and I'm telling you, it is not fun to be stuck in your house. It is not fun when you have a lot of things going on. It's not fun fighting this virus. I can tell you all, I would not say, let's open something that we can start over in September that only has service under 10 children. In a year's time, I would say, let's put into effect a presentation, something that actually is like a meat and potatoes of mental health, that we can actually hit everybody in the district. And I know I have good support in regards to wanting to help the parents as well. So this would be something that the presentation could be given to children at all different grade levels, however it gets rolled out, and also it could help parents. It could be something that's done at night for parents, which Linda has spoken to me about. There are ways to do things. I would prefer to put the money there, and ISS is there for a reason. It is for disciplinary issues. That's just my opinion and where I stand. I want to use the money for mental health where it actually is a big majority of the students and families as opposed to a very small select few.
So, Mark, do you have anything to say to that, Eileen? Mark, Eileen?
But I
I'm good,
sorry, I was on mute. I happen to agree with Jackie. I think there should be, more, more long day. It's tax season, very long, tax season, very long day. There should be safeguards put in place for these, children. And I think Jackie could even agree with this too, but even putting that form together, I know Linda's working on it, with her staff, to put that form even for forum, even for parents. Again, Jackie and I were very impressed by, the presentation, what we saw, and it gave us definitely an insight to so many variables on how people are, how the terminology that is being used and how that terminology, word terminology is being used is almost like giving it a negative spin off. So even the word social distancing, I mean, they got very in-depth, a lot of these terms, and it sort of sends a trigger into the brain and, makes people feel more isolated, more everything. And what we're supposed to do is try to make people, even though we have to do things very health, safety, we have to put those barriers between everybody, but can we do it more safely and use more positive words and give hope for our kids? Because, a lot are suffering. Again, I want to repeat myself by having this opening plan. It is giving a lot of kids hope. Yesterday, I just watched on a news thing where the mother was telling the child, you're going back to school. The kid hasn't seen school for a year. Again, different place. The kid just broke down and was excited, and it made me cry because I want to say that, Connectclub has done a great job by bringing our kids back.
I just want to drag you back on topic. We're talking about the rap room.
Yeah, so the point is.
No, but quite listen.
I know, I got off topic a little bit.
A little bit, yes, we're going off a little bit.
I think what Jackie's looking to do, we are very tight for money. How do we use our money more wisely in these times? Am I correct, Jackie?
Yes, and I thought that program was so amazing, Mylan. It even said, it's not just the kids who are affected, it's all the staff, it's all the teachers, it's all the kids, it's all the families. Everybody has been touched by the pandemic. Whether you realize it or not, everybody has some sort of impact because of this pandemic.
All right,
I just feel like, why are we gonna service, 7 to 9 kids when we can service, a few thousand in one shot, and we can actually.
If there are more kids being serviced and they have to go out to be serviced, it would cost 4 times as much.
Okay, Jackie. William, in a year's time, I'm not making these numbers up. This is what was given to me by administration. Okay, this is what was given by the high school administration to our administration and central office. I'm just going off of what we have in emails in black and white. Okay, since March of last year, the room has serviced under 10 children. That is what we have in black and white. I can't go off anything else. You guys told me those to administration. I was told at the last meeting, and Linda could attest, that the room had a reason and a purpose, but that it really wasn't rolled out or done the way it was supposed to be, or something along those lines. If that's the case, I'm not for bringing something back. I'm not for abolishing it completely, but I'm not for right now revisiting that. I think we're going to have enough issues with trying to get kids back into school, and I just feel like right now, we're not taking any money away from, staff.
Jackie, I'm gonna tell you all this, because you already spoke about this. Lee had her straight, Mylan had hers, now it's Mark. And then if Lee has, well, she can bring up a thing, if she doesn't, then doesn't happen. I mean, that's what it is. Mark, your turn. Rap room, Mark. How do you feel? Mark.
I'm here, my phone, it's on mute, I'm trying to, you sound better when I put it on.
All right, so how do you feel about what Lee proposed with?
I'm not gonna go on and on forever. I'm not gonna go on, but 9 people, that's all I have to say.
Okay, so Lee, that's 3 no's, that they won't bring it back. It doesn't matter what I say at this point. So, that's what we'll say, if we want to bring it up.
That's fine with me. Okay, it's a no, but Dr. Adams, I'd like to know if any children have to be serviced elsewhere, special ed children serviced elsewhere this year. Once everyone gets back in, because we can't service them. And I'd like a cost on that, please.
Based on the numbers, it's not necessary.
Yeah. Lee, can we, that's a different topic, and I'd like to get the public in here to speak. It is getting kind of late, and they've been waiting. I don't know who's there, but, it is public comment time. So if you want, can you bring that up in an email, we can put it as a discussion topic the next time? Remember, we still have executive session to finish up.
Move on.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, so Lee, is there people there for public comment?
Yes.
So I'm gonna ask that you take over the public comment part of the meeting, because I'm not there. I appreciate that.
Is that okay?
She stood up there.
It's her turn. Sorry.
Thank you, Lee, you're in charge of the time and how many people are there, and, okay, please, thank you.
You're in charge of the time.
Hi,
Not me.
everybody. My name is Stephanie Clarelli. I'm a Connectclub graduate. I'm also a parent of 2 children in the district, as well as the Cherokee PTA president. So I just wanted to talk about a couple of things about the reopening plan. I'm a little concerned about, first of all, why we're even doing this at this stage of the game as it is. We only have 3 months left, and there's so much change happening in the world to begin with. And, piggybacking on all that you're talking about with the mental health, that is a huge concern for all kids. While on one hand, I'm very happy about it for my 7th grader, who is a special needs child, who should have been in school every day from the start. He really needs to be there. He's struggling like crazy. But, there's concerns of how are they walking in the holes all next to each other, all that stuff. But my biggest concern is the 4th and 5th graders. So, being the PTA president of Cherokee, I'm concerned about the whole school and putting all those classes together. But my daughter is in a 4th grade class, and especially these ICT classes, which she is in one of those. I did hear you mention there would be some, precautions taken, maybe having some flexibility for certain classes, which is great. I heard you say 1, but I want to make sure that the flexibility is across the board. It's really not a one-size-fits-all, solution for everyone. So, there are several of us who have decided, yes, regardless of what happens, we are keeping our kids in school, because let's face it, that's when they do best. It is very hard. I've been dealing with hybrid with my son the whole year, and that's been very difficult. I can't imagine all fully virtual. So to make that kind of decision is very difficult as a parent. I'm sure you're all aware of that. But my other concern is, now you're sticking all these kids together in one classroom to have lunch. So, while you're purchasing these extra barriers, which we appreciate, having these kids on top of each other, taking off their masks, I'm not comfortable with that. And by the looks of this way this room is set up, I don't think that you guys are comfortable with it either, because you're all at a distance. So I want to find out, what are we putting in place for lunch? I saw what the presentation showed, but that doesn't make me feel comfortable at all. I think that something else needs to be done with that. There's several class sizes that, when you put them together, you're talking about 25 kids.
Would you like me to address? Yeah. I'll talk about the 4th and 5th grade. It is definitely something that we're looking at all the buildings, especially the schools that do house our ICT students, our program. I think we need to provide that flexibility to building principals as well as the teachers in order to create that program that works best for those students. I have personally met with Mrs. Langley and as well as Mrs. O'Hare, our new director of special education. I know that she has spoken with teachers and we're currently working to develop, I think, a solution that best meets the needs of everyone here. So, I don't know if it's finalized yet, but, like Ms. Leslie is working, very hard to make sure that we're creating that environment where our students and our teachers both feel safe and secure. So hopefully we'll have some updates, sooner rather than later.
All right, great, thank you. And the next thing I wanted to ask is about PTA events. Now we're talking about all these sporting events that are able to happen, everything being done outside. Let's try and get some normalcy back to the kids. Things like the fifth grade circus that we always do. That's something that could be held outside. Book fairs outside, any sort of events. What is the plan for talking about that?
So we did start talking about some field trips. We did start talking about some end of year activities. We're working with building principals right now, planning those. We did not speak specifically about the PTA events or the circus, but we are meeting within the next week and then we're going to begin to reconsider.
Good, I need to move, the group.
If there's anything else that I can possibly do about that, I have some ideas about what we might be able to do, and I don't know, maybe talking offline about that. I would love that.
Definitely, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else over there, lady?
Yes, she's coming right now.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I have senior and I have seventh graders, so I'm like stuck in a family. But I would like to speak about, I'll start off with the seniors. The seniors are very excited to be coming back. They don't know how they're gonna feel when they come back because they haven't been around their friends. Some are nervous, some are not. My son actually lost his whole get up and go with all of this going on, which like you said with the mental health, I'm sure a lot of kids are dealing with the same thing as parents. I was gonna ask about the our yearbooks, okay? We've been having, do any of you know what's been going on with the yearbooks and the boosters and pictures and nobody knows? Okay, well, there's a big.
That's actually not done by
You-
school, I don't think.
Well, no, there's somebody in the school, I had called the school on Thursday and told them that somebody had posted something about your boosters, your yearbook, and your children's pictures need to be in by Sunday the 7th, and I called the high school and
Wait,
asked.
who is, that's not the PTA, is that the PTA or is that, I don't think that's the PTA, isn't that one of the clubs that does that?
Yes, there's a yearbook advisor, but it is a club.
Right,
So that's, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know like who the senior advisors are, because I had called the high school on Thursday and said to the lady in the main office if they could do a robocall about the deadline is for the 7th, for the boosters, the yearbook and all that, and the pictures
I
for the
can
years.
certainly-
And
You can give her, Linda, you can give this, the lady the names of the advisors, correct?
okay, I know and Mr. This guy, gentleman by the name of Carney, who keeps posting on the, the only way people are getting information is through the Facebook on a certain page. And I asked the school to do a robocall so that the parents the other 400 parents that aren't on Facebook, that aren't on, social media or whatever, and can't trust your children to tell you what's going on either, if they could do a robocall. Well, the lady said, oh yeah, that's a great idea, I thought they were gonna do it, they never did it. Mr. Middleman, I believe, Mr. Moran sent out an email about it. I don't get his emails. A lot of parents don't get the emails. A lot of parents aren't on social media. So now they had to change it 3 times. So now it's due on the 10th. It was just a big rigmarole. All the parents were scrambling to get all their kids stuff because we don't have clubs and sports and everything to put in the pages of the seniors' yearbooks. So they're trying to fill it up. But tomorrow, the 10th is the deadline anyway. But so who do I speak to? Who do I speak to about the
Linda, will you speak to her, or Dean, will you give her the information, before she leaves, please?
Alright, so who do I speak to?
Dean is sitting right in front of you.
I don't
sorry,
have
sorry.
the, that's okay. I don't have the information with me, but I will get her information and I will contact you.
Thank you, Dean.
Just leave your phone.
Will you do it, anybody?
Okay, okay, yeah, and I just want to ask also, when you, our seniors bought the yearbook. Usually buy some boosters for like fundraising, so the seniors will get the book or something, right? Isn't that how it usually works?
I can't speak to that, I apologize, but, I will find out how it works to make sure that, we get her answers.
Okay, because our boosters that they're having, that we are able to buy, let's say like the half page is $125, plus we're paying $100 and something the yearbook. And, you can get a small quarter of a page for $75. And I'm like, well, where's all that money going? Usually it goes back to the seniors, they usually do it as a fundraiser, so that whether they get money towards their prom, money towards the yearbook, or whatever. So that's one of my questions, so you'll give me that information, thank you, sir. My other, I got questions from a lot of the parents too, so I'm gonna be all over the place. When the seniors come back on Monday, we have the senior parking lot. I heard through the grapevine that, when the seniors come back, that some juniors had gotten passes to park in the senior parking lot, and there are teachers also parked back there. Right, because, half the school's not in right now, but I'm talking about for Monday or when they start coming back. It might be really crazy back there. And you got the containers too, filled with all the desks and whatever you have in
Do
there.
you wanna leave me the questions and I will have Mr. Moran put them together and.
Or you can't read, this is chicken scratch.
Oh, you can email me if you want.
Oh, I'll do that, I'll do that, and then you can get back to me on that also.
Yes, I can have Mr. Moran post that information, the free.
Yeah, because there's a lack of communication between the school and the senior parents. It just seems like with everything, this whole year, the senior parents are getting left,
Well, we hope, as we bring the kids back, that a lot of things start to go back into, well, so if you leave me your contact information, I will get all the information.
Okay, and you had spoke about, the children coming into the school, if they're sick, if they can't log on. Say my son woke up in the morning, he's got a cough, I don't want it, if I keep him home, I call and say, can he log on, or just send him in a cough?
No, so we're hoping that, it would be kind of like a return to the traditional sense of, if a child is sick, then they would, miss that day of instruction, that we make up work that's available. But having students log on and off, really creates a challenge for our teachers and that consistency of instruction. So,
Unless it's quarantine.
unless it's quarantine, or, we also look at it on a long-term case-by-case basis.
Okay, another question, you provided everybody, last spring, I took one Chromebook. I have 2 sons, but I figured leave one for whoever else needed it in the community. And then, you had, my son, the senior, had brought one home. And I said, what's that for? But obviously you just said that you want every student to have a Chromebook.
Yes.
Now, my 7th grader, carrying that back and forth to school, that's not, he's gonna break it. I'm just letting you know, the way they throw their backpacks around and whatever, the younger kids, you know.
Yeah, and that's part of the expectation, and that's part of the experience of, this for our kids, is that opportunity for them to take ownership of the device and, you know, treat it with respect. As we move forward with this project, and continue to go, you know, our hope is that we reduce the number of items that kids will need to take back and forth, and a lot of the items will be, you know, housed either, you know, on the network or within the device.
Okay, because he's just a rough boy. That's, and if you're requiring him to have it, I think you guys should have a backup plan.
We do.
And especially if you're saying that the parents have to have this.
All right, enough, you only supposed to have 3 minutes, we gave you 10. So could you put everything in writing and email it to me and tell you all the answers you need?
Sure, no problem. Thank you, I'll just call the school tomorrow and get you, okay?
I'll give you my number, and you can, I'll give you.
Is there other people there?
No, there's nobody else here.
All right. So, there's no more public session? At this time, I'm going to ask for a motion in a second to enter an executive session, to discuss legal issues. Need a motion?
Thank you, sir.
Second? All in
That was
favor?
pretty shitty.
Aye. Betsy, we are staying in this meeting and you're gonna turn off the recording and then we're gonna be in executive, correct?
Yes, the case, just give us a few minutes, so.
Yep, absolutely. Everyone's at 5 and then Betsy just let us know when we're all ready.
Sure.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. That's the one.